Hey, Judy, how are you? Good. We're ready when you are. Take your time. Good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the November 24th, 2025 Boxborough Select Board meeting. As is our custom, if you'd like to join me and face the flag, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you, everybody. We're starting a little bit early tonight because we do have we have a public hearing at 7 p.m. So we're actually 2 minutes early. Do you want to do minutes, you guys?
Sure.
And everyone have a chance to take a peek at them?
Good.
Any amendments?
Nothing for me.
Well, that's easy. Okay. What's that? Oh, sorry. I move to approve the minutes of October 20th, 2025 and November 10th, 2025 as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, meetings are approved. Did everyone see the note? We're going to pass over number 5.
Yep.
Andrew, by the way, thank you so much, Andrew, for serving on the Sustainability Committee. We really appreciate it, and 100% respect people trying to manage their time, and we're thrilled that you are still volunteering at other boards. What else can we do quickly? Because we have 1 more minute. And I don't want to do public input because you get 2 minutes. All right, we'll just be patient then.
That's what the old saying goes.
All right, is it time? 6:59 on my watch, almost. This is so uncomfortable for me being early. I really am very uncomfortable right now.
Live television, right? You gotta fill that gap.
No, I'm late for everything. So for me, being on time to early is just a stretch. Yeah, it's very, very, very uncomfortable. There must be something we can do to make us late.
So as we used to say, well, how about those Red Sox? Now we can say, how about those Patriots?
How about those Patriots?
There you
That's
go.
right. Okay, I think it's close enough for government work. I move to open the public hearing on the adoption of the FY 2026 residential factor pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 56 at 7 p.m.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, oh, do we have to roll call vote this? No, because we're all here, right? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Welcome. You want to take a minute and introduce yourself for the
Viewers?
public?
Sure, the viewing public, right? And yourselves, thank you for having me here tonight. My name's Jim Doherty. I'm your interim assessor. Thank you for having the faith in approving my appointment a few months back. You have a great town here. I've got to know some taxpayers, the elected officials, the appointed officials, and you know, it's everybody's been very helpful. Taxpayers I met have been very open, and I've had nothing but a good time here.
Well, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank you because a couple of those taxpayers are people that I sent to you, and I flat out said, all right, he's only in a couple days a week, he's part-time, give him some, you know, da-da. You were on it, you responded to them, you took care of their needs, you were pleasant and helpful and fabulous. So thank you. Really appreciate it. Above and beyond, if you ask me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.
Yep. And you have a beautiful town. I will say that.
No, we
Thank
think
you,
so.
welcome.
I like it. Thank you. So you're here tonight. I'm not sure the longevity of the members here, whether most of you have been through this before, this process, or whether it's the first time for anyone.
4 of us have, 1 of us, this will be a new experience.
Okay. So you have the somewhat unpleasant part of the budget process. And I say that somewhat facetiously, but you know, as it relates to who's picking up the taxes, the buck stops here, if you will. So the process, as you probably know, kicks off with your town meeting, generally in the spring. I've met Tony, spent some time with him, so I know he's on the FinCom committee, and, you know, they start working hard, you know, probably one of the hardest working committees I've found in the various towns. Pulling all the numbers together. They have to go to town meeting, they have to gain town meetings, support. Town meeting ends up approving the budget.
He paid you how much to say that?
Not enough?
From there, you know, that's in the spring typically. I'm not sure exactly when your town meeting is. I know you had a special one, but.
We have a lot of them, yeah.
Okay, you have my condolences.
Thank you.
Being a 24-year member of the town meeting in Arlington, but we like to make it a, you know, 4-month, 2-night-a-week event, so. Anyhow, so you guys set the budget. Then the assessors get to work. They're working in the interim on that, developing the values, looking for new growth, which, just as a quick diversion, tutorial on Prop 2.5. Basically, if the town is still breathing, come July 1st, you can increase your levy by 2.5%. Anything beyond that, without going to the voters, you need to increase that through new growth, which is picking up either new buildings, improvements, personal property, which is largely paid by the utilities. So we pull all that together. The town accountant, who does a great job, I might add, in my short period here, she gets the free cash certified. So that's kind of where pulling together all the different places that can generate revenue for you. Local receipts are kind of local receipts, and you know, they kind of trend up a little from last year, but a lot of people keep them relatively flat. And here comes the less appealing part of the process is now we come here, we basically have a total value, we have the money that needs to be raised, less cherry sheet money, free cash, some of the other things, and it comes to how do we get that money from the taxpayers, which is the lion's share of the revenue that the community runs off. So, you know, it's simple division, right? You have the 28-some-odd million dollars. You have a value of about 1.8. You do the division, it comes out with a tax rate, okay? Now you have to allocate who pays what. Some communities, they have the ability, and we'll walk through some of these later, they have the ability to classify the property, which means basically, historically, a town like you and many small towns that don't have a lot of commercial property, it's a single rate. It's 1.0. That means every type of property pays the same amount. Here, you have some commercial. It could be an option. I will kind of introduce the concept to you tonight, but I would recommend, if you were going to go with that, most likely get it into Tony's committee early, maybe get another subcommittee or something, and then decide how you want to approach it, and potentially do it next year. In terms of what you're here to vote for tonight, I don't know how it's been done in the past, but really you're here for one primary vote as it relates to Boxborough, and that's really if you want to have a factor of one, single rate, everybody pays the same rate, or a rate higher than one, which means you shift some on to the commercial, industrial, and personal property. The other three votes you're going to take, I will give you a very brief overview of them because they're not applicable to your community. So you have to keep in mind everything that the assessors pretty much do is guided by state statute. So when you have this hearing, the state requires every city and town to vote on all of these, even though probably 90% of them don't offer anything other than the tax factor, which is either 1 or 1.75. So you can have a residential exemption. What's a residential exemption? Residential exemption is applicable to 2 types of communities. 1, cities. 2, maybe a heavily weighted vacation area, i.e. Nantucket, something like that. And what it does is it exempts for the owner-occupied property a percentage of the assessment. But the disbursement of that amount that's abated has to be picked up within the residential class. So it doesn't go outside the class, it stays in there, okay? Unlike if you picked a factor over 1, which would move it to the commercial class. So it doesn't apply because the majority of your property is owner occupied. It would be regressive if anything. Commercial exemption, again, nobody really does it. It's really for small business, commercial, under $1 million, under 10 employees. Again, it has to shift that within the commercial class so it would go on to some of the other buildings. Right now, I would tell you, my specialty is commercial property. Commercial properties are a little soft right now. So you see it yourself driving by, and last thing you want to be doing is going hard on something like that and getting a lot of abatements. It's a problem because you have to pick it up as the first thing if you go over your overlay account. And the last thing, although this town is awesome with all the open space you have, from my standpoint, you don't have anything valued or classified specifically as open space. Therefore, the open space rate, you could have another rate for that, not applicable, okay? So we take all of those off. So let's talk a little about what happened from last year to this year as it relates to valuation. The town itself went up about almost $49 million, so it increased about 2.75%. Residential, this is where you get into, and I was having a brief discussion with Tony. I've been doing this for a long time, so I remember back in the early 80s, just after the dot-com explosion there, a lot of commercial property really started sinking rapidly. At the same time, residential property was screeching north, okay, and we called it the perfect storm. So any communities that were classified, particularly heavily classified, i.e. up near the max, which is 1.75, they were in a real dilemma because their residential was going up and they couldn't shift any of that onto the commercial other than what they had in the past. But the residential people were picking up a lot more and they couldn't offset that. So what they had to do is go for special legislation. I don't want to leave you in a predicament like that. So when we looked at the commercial property this year, you know, not like we're splitting atoms on that. You drive by it, like I said, you see it. You can see it all over the area. You can see it in Burlington, see it in Boston. And it was no real surprise because I talked to a lot of commercial people. Communities were concerned right when COVID came in, and they said, we're really not too concerned about an impact on our values at that point in time because most of these people on investment grade properties, they're tied into the leases, and the only way they're really going to get out is if they want to bankrupt their company. So companies of that magnitude are not going to do that for that. They said where it's really going to come into play is going to be in calendar year 25 and 26 because that's when a lot of them 5-year leases, they come up. And the rents are higher now in many cases, but when they're higher, and it's not a result of higher, it's a result of, you know, nobody wants to go to the office anymore, right? And so what you're seeing is I might have had a whole floor plate, might have had a whole building. And now I come in and I said, yeah, maybe I need 1 floor. So my rent might have went from 18 to 22, but I'm taking 1/4 of the space. And that's why you see so much vacant property around. So, so what we did is we tried to address it. And we did that through an income approach to value, which is the best way to do commercial property. And what we did is we increased the vacancy rate, okay? And then what you'd also get is a slightly higher cap rate, which means, without getting really into the weeds, higher cap, lower value. Lower cap, higher value. Now, within the residential class went up about 4%. I will say this is very unique community in terms of your parcel count. I haven't been in a lot of communities where the condos are almost equal to, the number of condos are almost equal to the number of single-family parcels. Pretty staggering, about 1,200 and some odd each, give or take a few.
The number of units, you're saying?
Number of units.
Yeah.
So, some of the condo numbers were a little soft. So even though the residential class went up total by about 4%, some of the commercials, some of the condos did not go at that same level. And when I get and talk about the average increase, I elected to do it based on single-family homes because they're just so much different. If I did an average, it would have been a distorted number because both numbers would have been bogus, you know?
Yep.
So that's kind of what I did. So, if we can go to that other slide, Kelly. What I've done is I've put together a slide that you'll see in a moment. You've probably received it already. And what you'll see is up on the top 25, it's just a quick history of what was last year. You know, your value was about slightly below $1.8 billion. Your residential, you can see, is lion's share at almost $1.5 billion. And your commercial, the CIP is commercial, industrial, and personal property, as I mentioned. So that's about $317 million. And you can see where the levy was.
Maybe we can.
Okay, that's okay.
Hold up one second, she's trying to get it out on the
Sure.
broadcast. It's not
Oh,
broadcasting
it's not
yet.
broad, okay. Well, okay, you know what, while we're
There you
getting,
go.
you all set? Okay, beautiful.
Technologies. I'll
Okay.
talk quick so we'll get through it before it's cyber attack. So your rate last year was 15.14. The highlighted area is kind of the important thing I want to point out to you. Your levy share last year picked up by the residential was 82%, we'll call it, okay, with rounding. You see it, 82, 1, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now if you drop down, Kelly, a little. Okay, your new growth, just for a quick comment, it's 181,000. It's something that, you know, you can't create it, but there are ways to try to get it up a little, because as I mentioned, other than the 2.5% without going for a debt exclusion and an override, it's the only way to get it up. But that's for another day. I've talked to Mike about that.
Story
No, I
for
mean,
another
it
day.
really,
Yeah.
Mike's on top of that.
Yep.
So now you'll see the tax levy. If we can go down a little more, right there's perfect. So the tax levy this year is it's in the budget initially, according to Tony, of 2807 and change. But when you're doing a tax rate like that and you're putting in all of those numbers, there's going to be some rounding. So it's not going to come right there. But why I wanted to,
Oh, not new to you, sorry.
what, can we go down just a hair? Right there's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we'll remember anyhow.
Jim, do you want to point
Yep.
here?
You want a pointer? Yeah, that makes life easier.
Oh, sorry.
The green.
No,
the green,
thank you.
The green button.
Perfect. Okay. So, right there, if you'll recall from last year's, it was 8213. So it's showing the residential classes picking up a little. That goes back to my discussion about the values. Okay, so it's picking a little more up there. That's the levy for this year, so it's like $2,000 under what you're projecting, but you pick it up on local receipts. You're still gonna get the money you need. And overall, the levy is scheduled to go up 4.4. What I want you to focus on, just very quickly, I'm gonna run through the rest of the slide. So this also gives you the 1539 approximately. That's why you vote a factor and not a rate, because when you put this in the recapitulation form, which is a 4-page document of your whole finance, goes to the Department of Revenue, their system seems to round a little different. So if I had you vote tonight for 1539, the rate came out at 15.38, you wouldn't like me, we'd be back here sometime in December to vote it again. So, two things I want you to focus on when we run through the classification things very quickly. There's your levy. You're gonna see they're all gonna be about the same on the percentage. What you're gonna see change is this number here, this number right there, and these percentages right here. Before I leave that, The average residential single-family bill is about $14,000. And this will result in an increase of about $800. Okay, so that's kind of what's been going on. I looked at what happened last year, and it's,
Jim, do you have the average value that $14,000 is calculated out to be?
yeah, it's, I think it's 985,000.
Yeah, we're $1 million town now.
985,000 is what you basically come up with.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can check, I don't have that, but that's my recollection.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you drop down a little, you can see the levy is still very close.
Yeah.
It's about 5,000 difference. That was 444, it's 446. This shows a classified rate. So your values don't change, okay? This is where we get into the factor, okay? So again, what I tried to demonstrate here is bring this back as close I could to last year's percentage, okay? So that if we adopted this, not a recommendation, but if it were adopted, that would make sure the residential people were picking up exactly, relatively speaking, of what they picked up last year. You push the rest off a little higher onto the commercial people, okay? If you notice right up here, okay, we still had, it was 444, and down here, it's 446, okay? So it's, you know, it's $5,000 basically apart. But what it did right here, other than it brings the residential people back, it distributes that 446 pretty equally. And what you can see is rather than $810, you're down to about $651 for an average increase. Now we'll scroll down a little more, Kelly. I'm not going to spend a lot of your night on it. You get other important things to do. Okay, here's another example. The levy's basically right where you wanted it. Okay, this is showing that the residential people would obviously pick up more. To get there, though, you have to. I mean, to pick up less, they would. To get there, you have to put a little over an 8% increase on the commercial people. Not sure it's the time you want to do that. Okay, but you'll see, you know, the total levy didn't change in terms of being where you want it. It brings that down from 810 to 539. You know, over here it's still $14,000. We can go down. I think two more. This is just another example of that. You got to push it up 12%. This is the one you really can't get there. I mean, you might as well shut down commercial property. Is if you went to the max 1.75, you know, you drop that 81 or 82 down to 70, but you know, the residential goes down, but you've got a pretty good increase on your commercial properties. I think you'll be helping with the vacancy rates to go up. So I wouldn't recommend that. So I do that only to show you primarily the first example. Mm-hmm. There are some benefits potentially. I know you have some other things going on next year that it might be worth taking a look at for a minor tweak there. That doesn't kill some people, but it may help others. That's a decision you can all ponder, and that's why I was saying, get people involved, think about it, don't rush into it. You've got a year to figure it out. But that was really the only reason I wanted to lay that out for you. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, I can give you a little overview of some of the exemptions you have, if you'd like. These exemptions, in many respects, unfortunately, the state has just not kept up with them, particularly the financial ones for elderly people, widows, and things like that. They're means tested. You know, it's just difficult to get it. You do give out a good amount of money. Your exemption for people that qualify is pretty good. It could go up higher. Might be something you want to consider at some point in time. You have ones for veterans, and I will tell any veterans in the audience or watching from home, I've seen in some other communities how they're classifying the veterans, and some of them have, it used to be below 10%. If you weren't over 100 or over 90%, you'd get the base one. I've seen a lot of them coming in with some really high percentages. And in my opinion, if, you know, for what they did, they deserve it. They should, you know, make sure they appeal, you know, apply for it. Talk to the veterans agent. I met him, I apologize, I forget his name, but
James, yeah.
James, he's a.
Don't we already do the maximum benefit to veterans? I thought we voted that in last year.
You do, but this is on the qualification side.
Oh, so
in
you're
other
suggesting we
words-
look at qualifications again?
No, the Pentagon does that for you.
Ah, fabulous.
And what, in other words, what I'm saying is that for years, like, I'll just give you an example, okay, and I'm not saying he deserved more, we can all go back and forth on that, but my father was in the Korean War. A lot of those ones back then, they were like 10% disabled because they just assigned a number. If you weren't 100 or something, it was like 10%. So you could qualify for one of these. But what we're seeing a lot more of is 90%, 100%, which puts these people in an entire different category, meaningful relief. And like I say, quite frankly, you know, well deserved.
So the government is classifying them at 90%, they're getting a maximum from us, so they're in the best situation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just so I understand.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of it, like,
Yeah.
a lot of it going on.
Yeah.
I don't inquire why, it's none of my business, but I see they have the letter from the veterans agents, and good luck to, you know. I mean, I think we could all agree on that.
What are
Tax-
our options for seniors?
You have a 41C and a 17. One, at 41, it gives you more, so it's based on income and assets. That was what I was alluding to earlier. The income and the asset requirements are really small in today's day and age, I'll be honest with you, you know. It's
So is that something we should be talking to our state representatives
Yeah, you
about
should.
amending?
absolutely,
Because we are an equity-rich town.
yeah.
You know, when my parents moved here, they bought a big house and 40 acres for $14,000, you know?
The only thing I
It's
will
brutal.
say, and it's still a good point, because, you know, if you have a 401K or something else,
Right.
it's still, or a second home, forget about it, right? The primary residence is excluded.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So,
good, because that was my
yeah.
concern, is we're equity heavy, but you can't tap your equity by groceries.
No.
So, okay.
And, you know,
Sorry, tell me, what's this exemption you're talking, the 41?
41 or 17, they're both for elderly.
What's the exemption?
The dollar amounts?
Yeah, what, describe
Tell us
what you
more,
have to
tell us
do
more.
to get
Okay,
them.
so you have, for the 41, you have an income requirement, and it changes, fluctuates, but it's somewhere around $50,000, right? So it's tough. And then you have a whole estate excluding the primary.
In order to get an abatement on your real estate tax.
It's an exemption, same effect, but that's referred to an exemption. Abatement is only if you are getting a reduction on your value.
So the exemption, it wipes it out entirely?
No, it gives you a dollar amount. So up here, for example, it could be $1,000 off your taxes. The 17's a little less.
Okay, so with Sam's question, and you gave the answer, if someone's making under $40,000 household income, they
Correct.
could potentially get $1,000.
Absolutely. And it may be, they call it an explicable exclusion.
Applicable or exclusion?
Thank you.
I'm like parsing in my head, an applicable exclusion.
And the reason they do it is it's tied to Social Security. So every year they put a new number out. So if you're a married couple, it's a slightly higher, could be $8,000 off. So it
Like
can
the
float up
tax
to
rate.
almost 50.
Like the minimum tax,
Like-
if you have to pay the minimum tax, it changes every year.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so they adjust. A single person, you get a little less.
Thanks.
Then, so those are really two financial tested ones. And the 17 is also for widows.
Not widowers, just widows?
No, both.
Oh, I'm like, that's sexist, but I like it.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Just kidding, men, just kidding.
This is just all state level, or is it, some of it is also federal? Just like taxes?
No, this is all local.
All local.
All local.
State.
Now,
Was it 17 or 40?
and it comes out of the overlay
Yes.
account,
So-
same like you pay your abatements out of.
Okay.
The issue you have with it, and it's not a big issue because, you know, not too many people can qualify. What most communities see, that number's gone down over the years. You know, I hate to say it because, you know, there were more people that had homes that could apply for it. that are kind of poor, you know, less wealthy. Today, you know, the people getting up there, they've had 401Ks and stuff, they have a lot more.
So the 401Ks all account to that number?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's their
that's the
assets.
killer. Yeah, exactly.
That kills that.
You know, so unless you get a pension years ago,
Yeah.
for the most people years ago, they were only getting a social security in maybe the people, some that had a pension. That's what, you know, that's where they really did. But they've got to increase it. And the reason why they should increase them also is they could make it local option, because they set the baseline, I forget the year, but it was like 30 years ago. So whatever you were giving out at that point, that's all they reimburse you for.
Yep.
So the additional revenue, it comes from the community.
Oh, okay.
So if they made it local option, they have no real skin in the game. They're still only gonna pay what they paid, unless the state reps were to increase both sides of that.
Right, so that's my question.
Okay.
So when you said that they would have to, this would be the state legislator would have to, legislation would have to change these rules?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. Yep.
Yeah, because what's the percentage? Is it 20% of people in Boxborough are over the age of 60?
20% under the age of 18, 30% over the age of 60,
30% of our
Considered
population is over the
seniors.
age of 60.
which is 60 in Boxborough.
Right. So we have a very, we're like Arlington. Doesn't Arlington have a really high senior population also, if I remember right?
They do.
Yeah, but
they
I mean,
do.
30% is a significant portion of our population.
I mean, these things are worth looking at,
Yeah.
because the people that do need it, they need it.
Right, and they might not ask for
Probably
it.
the biggest threat that I've seen on the local level a lot is local taxation.
Yeah,
I mean, they're big numbers.
yeah,
You know, a lot of these people, they're not, you know, they're not in a position, it might be different, you know, in some communities, but they're not gonna be in a position where they're going to be able to, you know, the Fed's cut it, I know it's been put back in terms of, you know, getting a deduction on your income tax, but a lot of
Right.
the people, they're not doing their income tax that way anyhow, so.
right, okay, thank you.
Yep. So with that, we really come to the vote. We got 4 votes, right? But the only one I would recommend you vote yes on is a factor of 1. I think that you should then vote no on the residential exemption, the commercial exemption, and the open space discount, because you don't have any to give it to.
What are the requirements for the
I
open
only have-
space discount? Like, how come we don't qualify for any?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you, but you have to designate it a certain way. But like, for example, a lot of the people in the town where a lot of your open space is, they get a discount on their taxes because they file for a chapter 61A being horticultural, agricultural, 61B if it's open just in its wild state for people to walk on or whatever. So, I mean, you create a lot of it that way. And in essence, in a way, you are contributing because you're not charging them at the full freight. And there's benefits to a community. I think you guys are gonna get some property maybe that way. People, if they enter into it, they have to stay in the program for a 10-year period. If they get out early, there's rollback tax provisions. So, you know, it can be a good thing too, you know?
Sorry, Jim.
That's
I only have
You're-
one motion, and when you said I had to make 4 motions,
Yep.
I'm like, I don't know what the other 3 motions are.
Oh,
Can you help me with that?
yeah,
Beautiful. All
absolutely.
right, when we get there, because first we're gonna have questions from the board, questions from the public, and then we'll get to the motions, and thank you.
Fine, yeah, no problem.
Awesome. 2 more.
Sorry about that.
No, don't apologize at all. No, I always panic over the motions, that's fine.
No, straightforward.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board?
This is for the future, just
Sure.
for my own understanding. Like, when you said about the commercial properties, right?
Mhm.
Is it feasible to, like, divide the commercial properties into, like, 2 different sections like that? Like the bigger ones and the smaller ones? Is that feasible?
If you were gonna do, and that's one of the analysis you would wanna do before you would adopt that, because I would say Main Street, but you don't really have
Yeah.
a main street. I don't mean that disrespectfully, it's just a fact, right? You don't really
Our
have
feelings aren't hurt, we get
a
it.
town center.
We've
So-
heard it before.
Yeah, first
But
time.
you do have the person who has a small repair shop, or I drive by this, nice, sports motorcycles and I guess cars and stuff there. And so you have small people like that, and you can run the numbers and you can say, okay, well, what's the average assessment on some of those, you know, $1 million or something like that. You look at it and you say, okay, so for the amount of money we're taking off residential, it's gonna kill these small business people, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case and you opt for it, you don't stop there, you say, okay, so now let's look at that commercial exemption we talked about and say, this is really geared towards investment grade property, i.e. out near the highway, right? And up a Mass Ave, I guess, too, right? But, so, in essence, you can mitigate it that way by doing something maybe creative with that commercial exemption. But I wouldn't do that unless I was classifying.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
And that
But
was
it's a
when
good
you had
point.
said, take a year to process, like if we
Process,
really
yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
move this forward, take a year to study it?
Yeah, well, you run some numbers.
I mean,
Sorry,
you
Alec, I
know,
didn't mean to look at you, I meant to look at them.
Is it, and I know we're throwing out numbers, is it like $1 million is the dividing point, under $1 million, over $1
No,
million?
it's just a simple number to work with.
No, okay, that's what I'm saying, yeah, I mean.
No, very honestly.
Yeah,
It
okay.
is, because, you know, what I would do personally, like if someone said, hey, we want to consider that assessors, can you give us an idea what some of the properties on Mass Ave, Lower Mass, I'm calling it Lower,
Yeah.
Eastern Mass Ave, I guess, right?
Yep.
You know, give me some of those average numbers. Give me an idea what, you know, Jim's Auto Bodies, not to pick on him, but, you know, just that property down there. Or, you know, I think that.
Versus 90 Central or something, you know, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Exactly.
so classify it based on
on
value,
value.
and we
Yeah.
have to decide what that might be.
Yeah. And you
Based on a
want-
small business versus a larger business versus an Uber business.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
And you don't even have to worry about doing, all you want to do that with is probably commercial, because your industrial largely is going to be bigger.
Yeah.
Your personal property, it's irrelevant. They're going along for the ride either way, because most of that is big utilities where you're getting your money.
Right.
So, I mean, they're going with the big boys. And they get to build it in their rates anyhow, so.
Yeah.
So let's do it this way, questions first, and then we'll discuss. How's that sound? Any other questions?
I would like just, and this is follow-up in the future, and just confirmation of that single-family home value figure that you
Yeah,
cited.
I'll tell you as soon as.
Is it median or is it average?
Simple average.
Average, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just honestly just myself curious, since you're here.
I apologize for not having it. I'll, as soon as you finish with this, I know you're gonna be, I'll bring it right back up to you.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you both. I'll give you the one for that and the one for condos, and you'll see why you wouldn't want to blend them to put something up there and say that's the average residential increase.
I'd be very interested to see
Because
that.
neither
Thank you.
one would work out well. It would be
Right. Well, and it's
60.
funny, a lot of the national data, they do that, like unless you understand the local, economy, it doesn't
No.
work. It doesn't make sense.
It's just, it's an irrelevant number on both sides.
Right, which is actually gonna be kind of interesting we probably need to understand how the state is determining our average values, if it does factor into any of the exemptions or et cetera, because if the state is taking our,
Condos.
4,000 properties and not even 2,400 properties
Right.
and
You're
averaging
right.
it, then they're gonna have a,
Yeah, I mean, you would like to think that government entities who have all this data would share the information, but we
Yeah.
won't go down that road.
yeah, it's
But they
2,400,
have the
sorry,
municipal
doubling.
database and everything like that, and I think, there's a lot of good information. What I have seen in Arlington and some other communities, when people do get into that, they go into that municipal database, there's a lot of good information in there. You know,
And I mean, I'm not throwing you under the bus. It's
Yeah.
good, it's good data,
Feel free.
but who's gonna listen to it? I mean, we can find it, but who's gonna listen to it? I mean, we're not gonna change the way the state changes their policy, are they?
I think more and more, particularly if they're local options. Years ago, you didn't see as many local options being done. I think you see a lot more local options. Like I say, I mean, if you want to help out your residential people, why should, and you would have to pick up the freight, because again, they got the baseline they're paying. Why should they care?
Right.
Right?
I have to say, when we get later on in the agenda, we start talking about DC, and Adam will be joining in on how the school committee is approaching that. I think everybody's screaming at the state right now.
Right,
Because they
right.
don't have, the numbers aren't right. you know, and they're not fair and they're not equitable, and communities are disadvantaged sometimes, you know, so, anyway, we'll get to that, but it might just be that it makes sense for Boxborough to be, you know, banging the drums about everything all at the same time,
No, I agree.
just to be noticed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any questions from the floor?
Oh, here we go. Tony?
So a question about the assessed value of the town,
Yep.
Jim. So the assessed value of the town increased by 2.75% between FY 25 and 26. And between 24 and 25, it increased by 6.8%, according to my math.
Okay.
I know some of that's new growth, because new growth was 384,000 in 24-25 and only 181,000 this last year.
Correct.
My question is, so that's based on assessed values of all, you know, if you assessor going around or going around and assessing value of all the houses and adding all up, basically. Does it imply we're behind with our assessments for the town if that number's not grown as much in this last year as it did in the previous year?
I mean, I can't speak to the previous year. I wasn't involved with
Right.
in it, so I know really nothing about it.
It seems a big, it seems a big change year to year.
Well,
Yeah,
I would say this. So the bulk of your value is in residential.
right,
The state does a statistical analysis on residential. If you were in the city of Cambridge, for example, or the city of Boston, they would do a little more on the commercial property, but they don't do any statistical analysis on that because you just don't have sufficient data to make it worthwhile.
right.
Single-family homes you do, and that's what they certify you on. So usually those numbers are pretty good.
Okay.
It's hard to bag those.
Yeah.
I mean, they are what they are.
Yeah, I'm just surprised at the variation year to year, the variation in change year to year. So it went from 7% change in those 2 years to 2.25% last year. So it seems a big difference in the amount of value change from year to year.
Yeah.
Can I jump in? My understanding from previous assessors is that
Yep.
the assessed value is based on the market value 2 years prior.
Well, they're based, so this year, your valuation date's January 1, 2005.
Yeah,
It's always 1 year, the January 1st before your fiscal year.
Yeah.
Easy way to remember it.
Yeah.
Fiscal 26, 1/25 valuation date, and it's based on 24 data. So as you sit here, some of it is 2 years old, right? Because
Right.
you're using sales from 2024.
right. And then do we aim for 90 to 95% of market value?
You're supposed to.
Okay. Now, again, and understanding
It's
that,
tough to- it's
that
tough.
a lot of this has been formulaic, so we might be off. But getting back to where you are, Tony, I would suggest that because the market has changed, we are no longer in 21 and 22 when prices were taking off. 23, we saw leveling. We are absolutely leveled off now. So the FinCom has to be prepared that our values are going to go down, because what
Yeah,
goes up
sure.
comes down.
Yeah, that's what
So
I'm concerned about.
So
yeah,
I think
yeah.
we're starting to see that, and
Yeah.
again, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think we have to be prepared for that.
Well, I'm not gonna correct you per se, because I think.
Or adjust what I said.
Well, I would say this, okay? It doesn't make a difference really what the value is, you're still gonna get that levy.
Right,
That 28.7 is coming either way.
sure.
Plus
Yeah.
2.5% and whatever new growth.
Yeah, it
So-
affects the actual dollar factor, right? It's 15.39. Versus 15
That's
point-
all it is.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
it's a rate, but people see that rate, and it's a part of the number they see, I think, in terms of what they're paying for tax.
Well, I would agree with you, I
Yeah.
think, and again, I don't want it to be, and it's not my place to say, but, you need money to run a town,
Oh, yeah.
but I think most people at the
Yeah.
end of the day, people say about a percentage or something like that.
Yeah.
Percentages don't pay bills,
Yeah.
dollars pay
Yeah.
bills.
Yeah,
And so to me, you can tell me my rate's 10, you can tell me it's 15,
yeah.
but tell me what my tax bill's gonna be.
Yeah, we all pay we all pay the right share of that 28 million, but yeah, I get it, yeah. No,
And-
it's just clarify, I just want to clarify that number, where it came from as well.
no problem.
Yeah,
And to your point about 90 to 110, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a 90% guy, okay? Because the closer you are to 100%, particularly whether it's a mean or median, okay? That means a certain percent are over 100, right? abatement, that means I gotta give money back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're right,
So if
you're
you
right.
keep it down closer to 90,
Yeah.
you're better off.
Yeah.
And in a time like now, you wanna stay closer to 90 because the more you push it, then you're gonna have, they want all the classes relatively close. That means you got more pressure you gotta put on the commercial to keep the historical distribution. Not saying you bag numbers, but I'm just saying, okay? So you guys can probably figure out what that means. So I would suggest to you, your point is 100%. Somebody else could have had the philosophy, I want to be at 100%, I feel more right about myself. Feel right all you want, but it goes to what you just said. It's the difference between, say, the rate was 15, 14, or if the value was a little softer, maybe it would have been 15, 18. Who cares, right? You know, so it can help you sometimes. So,
I think our goal is fair and appropriate taxation.
exactly.
That's really, I believe that's what this board's goal is to make sure that everyone's paying their fair share, dependent upon.
It's what it's all about. I tell people all the time, you know, overvaluation, does it take place? Sure, easy to identify, but particularly when you're going into what you're going into next year and events like that, all people want to know is equitable. Look,
Yeah.
today for the, you're, you know, in the industry, so you know, for the most part, it's not like years ago where people didn't know what their property was worth, right? People pretty much do. And they know, hey, Jim's got this and I've got that, and just looking at it, I know he puts his house on the market, his house going for 50, 100 more than me, or vice versa, right? So, people want to see that type of equity, and the reason why in Massachusetts, it's one of the good things they do for residential property, is they do it on cost, okay? So it's called an adjusted market, cost-based adjusted market value. So you kind of figure out what's going on.
Versus income-based for commercial, right? Yeah.
It should be income-based, correct.
Right.
But for the residential, because I have someone come in and they say, how did my property get valued? You can lay out, okay, yours is a colonial. Let's see what some of the other colonials. They all have a base rate, all hypothetical numbers we're about to talk about, of $70. So they all have a going-in number of $70 a foot to build, right? Then you have a grade. Yours is a B grade. Hey, the subdivision was built out at the same time. You know, mine, Joe, Bob, everybody else, Susie. We don't want to
Oh,
get
I was
sexist,
thinking Susie.
right?
I was
So-
just thinking Susie. Okay, nice
you know,
job.
that's a two-edged sword when you start saying that. People might think the other, so, you know, you gotta be careful. But anyhow, whoever's house it is, A house, B house, and C house, okay? And they know, there's been no major improvement, so they all should have a B grade. Condition, okay? Look at the condition. If they're all pretty much straightforward, you can look at that condition, you can make your own conclusion. I always tell people, if you're reviewing your assessment, look at those things. Is the style right? Is the grade right? And is the condition right? That's assuming that the base number, square footage, is correct, which generally it is. It's really if one of those three other factors are out of line, and that's on the building side. The land is you know, done with a formula and should be relatively good, particularly in a mature community. And I'll say it right here, right now, okay? Has nothing to do with the prior person giving this presentation last year. All assessing programs can use, you know, updating and things like that. I know you're spending money doing your inspections, okay? The average rate of entry rate for data collection programs is about 40%. So if you're spending all that money and you're only getting into 40% of the properties, you're wasting your time. You got a demand from these companies that they make appointments maybe one night a week, they make some appointments on a weekend or something like that, so you're getting the bang for your buck. Because we all can drive up and down the street and know what's in there. I mean, know what's out there. We don't know what's in there. And we're not talking about gold fixtures and that stuff. It's just, you know. It's either, you know, has it been updated with a kitchen, a bath, some of these other things, which are the drivers of value. And unless you get in there, that's all they're looking for. People aren't looking to pry into, you know, closets and things like that. It's just, and that goes back to the whole thing about equity. People for them, I'll be one of them. I don't like paying, you know, a big tax bill either. But if I feel I'm getting a fair shake, I like the community, what are you gonna do? Move on to the next subject, more important in life. You're not gonna change that. Why dwell on it? I'm satisfied it's being distributed, as you mentioned earlier, fairly. I think they program, I think they strive hard to do it, all good.
But you gotta get above 40% is what you're saying, get.
Absolutely,
Get
I
the
feel
assess-
you're wasting your money.
That's sort of what I was trying to get at, actually, a little bit. My question was,
Oh, I think you have to go to the mic, Tony,
Yeah,
sorry.
Tony, go to the mic.
Yes.
Or Maria can pass the mic. We pass the mic around, yeah.
I was sort of trying to get to that in terms of, are we behind the game in terms of, if we're only doing 40% each year, are we
Already behind.
out of date with our valuations for the town, which reflects the lower valuation for the town?
Again, I get your point. I believe in having accurate information, but again, I think the point we talked about earlier, you know, it's only a matter of where that rate's gonna be. Is it gonna be 15.12 or is it gonna be 15.20?
So if we're all equally out of date, it's okay, basically what you're saying. Whereas ideally we want to be more up to date, but equally.
I just think it's like, you know, a lot of things in life. You know, we used to, so I've been in this business since Prop 2.5. I worked for a private company. We were brought in, we'd go through municipalities, and we established baselines for all the value. And, you know, we had the old computers that would fill half the room, right? And we had a saying, blank goes in, blank comes out, okay? So the better the blank up front, the data, okay, the better result you're gonna have. First, when you're analyzing your sales, right, to make sure what you're analyzing is good. And it doesn't help if you go out and you're checking MLS and everything for your sales, and you know that because you've got an MLS form that shows your new kitchen, new baths, all that, and then you correct that data, so all of a sudden, geez, my assessment's looking pretty good. But you don't know what's in all these other houses, the other, you know, 2,200 or whatever it is, so.
Yeah.
I just believe, they make you do it, every 10 years, you're supposed to go through the whole town. I think, this town, because of the parcel count, is, ripe, that once you get caught, my understanding is you had to catch up with those, inspections, but once you get that caught up, I see no reason why, an assessor you have here should not be able to then be doing that on an annualized basis. In that way, there's no additional cost to the community because they're doing it as part of their regular job. It's great to be out in the community. It's great to be out seeing what's going on, traffic patterns, other things you may not know, particularly if you're not from the community and you're the assistant assessor or whatever the new title's gonna be.
Jim, loaded question as a resident, and not as like, when a person comes in and it values the inside of my house,
Yep.
am I paying more taxes or less taxes?
It depends how accurate the data is,
Okay.
The existing data, right?
the existing
Yeah.
data, sure.
Is it worth doing any kind of public education on why you should let the
Absolutely.
assessor in?
But that's-
Because I
right,
think
'cause
that's
that's what I'm
something we
saying.
don't do. We don't do
Exactly.
any public education about it, because I will get phone calls saying, hey, I got this letter, should I let him in?
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, yeah, let's make sure your public record card is correct and
Well, that's
and
because,
all
that's what
that.
I'm saying, if I get the
Right.
letter, it's like, oh my God, no, my
Right,
taxes.
I'm
no.
not letting him in because my
Exactly.
taxes will go up, yeah.
Most people, I mean, you go to social events, you go to weddings, and, if you're a doctor, they're asking you how to cure cancer, right? If you're, a valuation guy, for ad valorem purposes, they're saying like, do I gotta let him in the house? It's different philosophies, but I'll stick with, that one is a good one. When I first, talked to Mike, about coming out here, the subject of Board of Assessors came up. I was stunned that in eastern Massachusetts, there was still a community like this.
That you were stunned that we didn't have one?
No, that you know.
That we were thinking
basically,
about
as
it.
I sit here, I'm the judge, jury, and executioner in the assessor's office, right?
Right.
That's not good. You know, you should have a board. I understand nobody likes to work for, people that oversee, oh, they're not here, they don't know it, this and that. There are downsides if it's the wrong, if board members think they wanna, be the full-time person and control it. Don't want that. You hire, like any consultant, you either have faith in them or you don't. If you don't have faith in them, you get a new one. But you don't insert yourself in there. Now, having said that, what I just mentioned a moment ago about traffic patterns, maybe school districts, maybe other positive and negative things, that person doesn't live in the town. Majority of assessors don't live, full-time professionals don't live in the town where they work. So board members can bring some of that knowledge to play. Board members can help, as you said earlier, with disseminating information, getting it out there, enlightening residents that, hey, someone's got to do it. Just like I said tonight, you guys kind of have the bad end of the stick in terms of, the whole classification process here. But assessors can go out there and say, hey, look at, all we want is equity. We all don't like paying X amount, dollars a year. But at the end of the day, we love this community. We think it's well managed, which this guy's cooking. It's very well managed, and it's one of those things. All we want to do is make sure everybody's paying their fair share as much as possible. Then,
Thank you. All right.
then that's what it's about.
All right, we've strayed a little bit off the subject, but so, Maria.
Okay, so let me start with your education. 27 years ago, when I moved into town, I got a letter from the assessor, and I'm like, well, I'm not letting this person in the house, and I threw it away. I had 3 babies. I didn't know anything about anything.
I got 3 babies. You are not coming in my house.
You can't get through my house, right? Anyway, I get the letter the next year, and I said to John, do we let this person in the house? He's like, I guess so. We didn't know anything about assessing.
Right.
The assessor, who I believe was Whitcomb, right? She comes
Colleen,
in, she walks
yeah.
through my ranch, and now I've got 3 babies. I'm carrying them around with me. They're following me around. She's like, I got to go downstairs. I'm like, oh, this is why I didn't want someone in the house. We walk into the basement, and she says, where's the rest of it? I said, the rest of what? They had been taxing me on my unfinished, fully open, because my store car's underneath the brown.
Garage under, yeah.
Garage. So I've been paying more taxes. So there's your education. When you get the letter from the assessor, let them in, because they had the wrong information. I didn't know anything about that, and I've been paying higher taxes for 2 years that I lived in town.
There you go. Good
So
story.
that's the education, but that's not why I'm up here.
Okay.
So when I look at option A, I have a question for you. Historically, we've always had the class factor 1, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And when I was on the select board, so this was back in, 2018, we had the assessor came in and gave us kind of a rundown on where we were. And our commercial taxes versus residential was about 24%. That was our commercial, the CIP. So what I want to understand is this effective 83%, 17%? Are we now at a 17%, since historically we've always used the same factor, 17% commercial tax base in town? Is that fair?
It's fair to say yes.
So,
It sounds
so
like a 7-point swing to me.
yeah, so that is, so that's something we need to talk about. I'd asked Tony to add new growth to the BLF agenda. But I think, I think people need to understand, I've explained it, I didn't realize we were that low. I thought we were closer to 20%.
And we're at 17 now?
We're at 17 now, right? And that's from when we were on the select board together, we were at just over 24%, and we've slid. And I get that there's COVID in between, but there's also a lot of vacant buildings that have not been redeveloped.
Cisco sold their building and left.
I understand, but you have Campanelli, who's also trying to, they're still in the process after 8 months of site plan review to actually expand that campus and give us a much higher tax revenue percentage-wise. So I really think that's important. I think it's important that the finance committee, and I won't speak for my chair, and the select board, we discussed this at BLF. I think we need to get all the boards on board, because I don't know that residents understand one of the reasons their tax rates are going up is that money needs to come from somewhere. So if it's come down from even 3 years ago, I'm not sure. I would love to get a history on this, I think, for us to better understand. Even from 3 years ago when we were closer to 20, that money's coming somewhere, and it's coming from the tax base. And I think this is really interesting. I had not seen this done like this before, but I think that gives us a great place to start with. 17% is low, when we've generally been a community historically at about 20 to 24% of CIP. So, thanks.
Thank you.
And if I could just make one comment, if you're at 24, it makes classification definitely much more in play.
Right, right. Okay, so that segues us right to the discussion. What are everybody's thoughts on single rate, split rate, you know?
I don't like split rate right now. I don't think we can afford it. I don't think, as much as I'm a resident and I'm gonna pay more, I don't think I can drive out or stop businesses from coming in, my personal opinion.
Anybody else?
For this year, I think we'll stick with what it is, but I think we should explore. Everything should be in the table. New growth, different options. I think it doesn't hurt for us to explore and see how it.
No, I agree, but for this year.
Right, yeah. For this year, I think we can keep it as is. Sam, did you have anything?
Wes or Sam?
Looking forward to hearing a motion.
All righty, sounds good. All right, so I'm told I have to make 4 motions. Which one should I start with? The residential
The
factor?
most important one, residential factor.
All right. I move to set the FY 2026 residential factor at 1,
Second.
which means, yeah, making sure I'm doing it right. Okay.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That's unanimous. Okay, what are my next 3?
We'll take them one at a time.
Yep.
Residential exemption, do you elect, we'll say, to not have a residential exemption? The answer you would like.
I move
Not to have a.
not to have a residential exemption for FY 2026.
Yep, that's all you're voting on tonight is 26 information. You can change these every year.
Seconded, Wes, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, we reject the residential exemption. What's the next one?
A commercial exemption, same thing. You vote not to adopt the commercial exemption.
I move not to adopt a commercial exemption in the fiscal year 26.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That one's unanimous. All right, what's number 4?
And you do not have, you elect not to have an open space discount for 26.
Do I do the honors?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I move,
Yeah.
I move not to adopt an open space exemption for FY 2026.
I'm sorry, did you talk about the open space?
Yeah,
Briefly.
it's, do you want to talk about it more? We can. I'm not an expert in it, but there is some classification that has to be done on open space, and I think it involves the state, that you can set a different tax rate for,
So the open space is,
which usually is low.
open space is forestry, or what's open space?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely not improved space.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but again, a lot of yours is privately owned.
Yeah.
And people are getting a discounted rate, which the goal is to try to keep it in that type of state.
No, I just want to make sure when you said open space, it wasn't a vacant floor in a commercial.
No,
building.
I'm sorry, no,
that's
Oh,
right.
sorry,
Yep.
no, absolutely not.
Okay, fine. Yep.
No, it's like if you looked at the front of the tax recapitulation form, it has a rate for residential,
Yeah.
has a rate for commercial, has a rate for industrial, has a rate for personal property, those 3 being the same. Residential being a different one, and then open space is the 5th one.
Okay, great.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to decline to have an open space exemption. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All righty. Thank you.
Sorry to take up so much time.
Did a great
No,
job.
it was great. We'd love to have you in again as we start exploring other options. All right, I move to close the public hearing on the FY 2026 residential factor at 8 PM.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we appreciate you answering all the questions that we
Yeah,
had.
you know what, I come right back
I'm
on.
coming right back with that, yep.
Oh, great, thank you.
Apologize for not having it.
Oh,
Yep,
no,
thank
it's
you.
fine. Next thing on our agenda is public input, comments from residents on non-agenda items. Anybody have anything? Are you sure it's not on the agenda?
Some of it is, but some of it
Okay,
isn't.
go.
So, good evening. I've got a couple updates I want to share with you from the school committee. First of all, last Tuesday we
You
had
think you're leaving
our...
early, you're not.
What's that?
Oh, you think you're leaving early? Just to check.
No, I saw that you've got stuff on the agenda really late for me, so I appreciate that.
Love you. Oh, you made me talk last the other night. Go ahead.
So I just want to give a brief update. We had our AB Forward Steering Committee last Tuesday night. That steering committee voted to remove some options from the list. AB Forward Steering Committee is meeting again next Tuesday. And remember, the goal is that they are going to move forward 3 or so final options for the school committee to vote on. A brief look at the calendar. Next Thursday, December 4th, those final options will be presented to the school committee. There's opportunities for public input at all of these meetings. So on December 4th, when it's first provided to the school committee, on December 18th, the school committee will continue to have a discussion on the reorganization options, and we've put aside a good amount of time for public participation and input at that meeting. January 8th, we're holding essentially a public hearing about all the reorganization options, so we're basically dedicating the entirety of that school committee meeting to hearing from the public, having people ask questions, provide us some input. And then on January 22nd, the school committee is planning on voting on the final reorganization options. So lots of time to provide input between now and then. By Thursday of next week, we should know what the options are that the school committee are considering. We'll see some other information around enrollment policies and around what the redistribution of students might look like in those meetings as they come as well. And then just as a point of note for those who have to deal with budgeting factors, on January 22nd, when we're voting our final decision on reorganization, we're also asking the superintendent to provide us with his preliminary budget. So they're in the midst of budget planning right now, not really knowing how things are going to work out, but we have some ideas. So stay tuned for that.
Adam, you're leaving the options open. It's not like you're looking for 3 options, 1 option, 2 options, 4 options. Whatever the people would like as options, what you're going to do, or?
Yeah, why do you walk through?
So there were the 9 some odd.
Yep.
Those got reduced down at the last meeting. If you go to the AB Forward website, you can see all of the feedback. All of our information from our last meeting just got posted there. The goal will be at our next meeting to reduce that down to 3 options. And I'll provide, we talked about this a little bit today. The reason we want the steering committee to narrow down those options is because that is a more representative body of the school community, representation from Blanchard, from Boxborough, from administrators, from teachers, from family members, community members. And so the goal is that that body looks at all of these things, weighs all of that information, and moves forward a slate of 3 options to the school committee, who can then take more input and weigh this more. But the goal is to get narrowed down to 3 viable options.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Now, I did mention to the school committee at their last meeting that we are, as a board, being approached by residents asking us to have another voice, just more input. And I asked the school committee to take that with the generosity with which it's offered. We are not telling them how to do their jobs, but we are doing what our constituency is asking us to do. My understanding is there were, and I'm rounding, I'm a rounder, 1,400 completed surveys.
1,500.
1,500 completed surveys and over 2,000 started surveys that were not finished.
Yep.
Do you have any sense of what percentage that was of Boxborough? Like how many, what?
I don't. So what I know is, as we've talked to our consultants about the level of engagement that we've gotten, so it's not just 1,500 completed surveys, it's about over 300 people in forums, about 200 people who engaged with us in small groups. It is by far way more in community engagement than they've had in any of their other consulting engagements. So
Okay.
I don't know what the breakdown was, and we didn't see that
Okay.
around, any of the demographics, either location, age, school community, any of that. But we know that there were a lot of people who applied.
Okay, no, the reason I'm asking is that what I am, you know, and I want to open up to the rest of the board too. What I am hearing is I haven't heard a consensus of what people would like. I'm only hearing what they don't want. And this is no surprise to you. Option 5-1 is a non-starter for every single person that has spoken to me. So that I want to pass that along because the sentiment is raging, and you know, this is an opportunity for the rest of the select board if you want to have any input on what people are speaking to you about, if you're comfortable speaking about it in public session.
I'll share that sentiment is very much the sentiment from the Boxborough Blanchard community.
Right.
However, there are equally as strong
I know.
sentiments from every other community and elementary school that has been called out.
Yeah.
So Conant, and by the way, with the votes that the steering committee made last week to remove some of the options,
Yeah.
it has now basically sealed the fact that the Conant school will be closed
Right.
for next
Right,
year.
we know that's happening.
So, I mean, I just think I think it's important that,
Right.
like, I understand Boxborough's perspective, and, you know, I think you've all, as you've had kids who go through elementary schools, you know, you are very passionate about your school, and we're very passionate about our town. And I would just say that we're receiving equally passionate advocacy for those school communities as well.
I think that the struggle that I'm having is that the other 5 elementary schools, they're not neighborhood schools, right? But each one is a community unto itself in the town of Acton. Boxborough has one school community in one town, and that's the disconnect that I think a lot of people are grappling with. People are talking to me, they are so empathetic to Conant parents. You know, and we had to shut Blanchard and ship our kids out, oh my Lord. So empathetic for Merriam and McCarthy Town. How do you figure out how to meld all that? So it's not that the town of Boxborough doesn't have empathy, it's that we don't feel like we're being treated as we should be, because again, you've got 5 schools in Acton and 1 in Boxborough. And I'm just passing on, like I said, take it for what it's worth, but I do want to let the rest of the board talk if they want to.
And I
Can
think
you
that's
help-
where, I think that's where your question comes down. I think, you know, of the 1,500, you know, how many of those are Boxborough residents? Because to your point about Conant, you know, if 500 people are Boxborough and then 500 people are Conant, you know, you're getting that sentiment between the two. It's like, oh my God, no, they can't do that to Conant. And it's like, oh no, you can't do this to Blanchard. So I think that the ratio would be good to know with Boxborough parents versus Acton parents.
Yeah, I don't know that, but what I can tell you is in the communications that I've received, both on the public forum for the steering committee, which is one type of way people can engage with us, and through the emails that have been sent directly to the school committee, there is equal representation from all of the communities.
Great, that's kind of what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think you'll see in the results of the voting that happened at the end of our steering committee meeting, out of the 18 people who were voting to keep or remove some of the options, there were only 3 people who voted to keep the 5.1 option. So
I am
it's
letting
not
people
highly
know
ranked.
that. It's high, what I'm telling people is I believe it will likely drop off as we move forward, but people have a lot of angst. But anyway, I asked the rest of the board.
I want to ask you a question, Adam,
Please.
and again, thank you for coming. Thank you every time. Frame it a little different from Kristen. Help me explain to the Boxborough residents and Blanchard parents that come to me, why is it an option? What the argument I hear is nobody actually wants this option. The parents don't want it, the kids don't want it, the teachers don't want it, and all I have is like what you said to us, which is all the options are solely based on buildings and district size, and that's it, and that's all they've looked at. But help me understand and help me to explain
Sure.
why it is so highly rated, or so.
It wasn't, so, like I said, it wasn't highly rated.
Well, it's a top level cost saver, or
Well, that's how we understand
So, yeah,
it,
so
yeah.
of some of the available rating options, which was financial sustainability.
Right.
It landed high on the financial.
right. So help me
sustainability
understand
scale.
why that is, so I can explain why it is or I can try to explain why it is
Okay.
in consideration.
So I want to start a little bit at the beginning. So I think it's really important, and I had this conversation with the finance committee a couple weeks ago as well. The school committee, when going through this process, realized that it needed to be a very open process. And some people just say, tell me what what our final options are and let's go. Other people really want to see the entirety of the process. And I can tell you from personal experience, having been through some of these on the school committee before, it's much better to have a wide open process and have everybody see all of the steps along the way. So the guidance that the consultants were given were, here are our enrollment numbers, here are our physical buildings and the classroom spaces that we have in them. Let's put together all of the viable options. And then let's have both the community at the same time as the steering committee and the school committee look at those options and ask questions and dig deeper into them. And for the period of a month, we did all of that outreach. And that's where we landed with last Tuesday. Now, why did option 5.1 with full grade banding pre-K through 12, why did that rank so highly on the financial sustainability scale? It rated highly on the financial sustainability scale because, first of all, you were consolidating principals in Acton, so that instead of having 5 principals in Acton, you ended up having only 2, 1 for each building. But then the use of resources. So we're not talking just about classroom teachers, and in fact, as an aside, I toured Blanchard this past week with the school committee. If you go look in the entry of Blanchard, there are pictures of the faces of every educator and every adult in that building. And it's absolutely amazing. If you look deeper, you'll notice that 1/3 of the pictures are actually classroom teachers. 2/3 of the pictures are support professionals, administrators, mostly supporters for all of the services that are provided in that building. So if you can, and this was what we learned even out of last year's elementary budget task force, if you can group all of the students together, you can more efficiently use the resources that those students may need to access for all of the different types of supports, for all of the educational supports, behavioral supports, all of that. So by grouping all of those students in grade bands, you're better able to utilize those resources. So with the reduction of some of the administrative staff by going down to essentially 3 school buildings, and better distribution of the support resources, that's why that would rank higher on one scale, which is the financial sustainability scale.
Granted, that's what I asked.
Yeah. There were many other factors, and at our steering committee meeting last week, we looked at a lot of the other factors. So the ability of having a good sense of community in the building, high quality education, the information around transitions, all of those other things we are beginning to grapple with more and more as a steering committee.
That's very helpful. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
I think, for me, I think it's still so far the residents I've talked to, Adam, pretty much agree with what Christian was saying. They're still very, very, very nervous about option 5 version 1. They don't mind, and again, as she said, they don't know what they want, but this is something that they just absolutely do not want.
Yeah.
And I get stopped. I can't drive into my driveway if it's bus stop time, they just block and say what are you going to do about it? I'm like, you guys have to talk to
Priya, what are you going to do about it, Priya?
I think it's worse if they don't approach you. I don't know how you go out into public.
He's grocery shopping
I'm
in
at hockey
Burlington now.
practice and birthday parties, eavesdropping on people,
I've just got a mask.
just saying stuff that are sort of half true.
Yeah.
No,
So one thing that I would share with you is we did get a lot of feedback, like I said, from Blanchard families. And what was really interesting, and I'll call this out, and I'm going to do it again in our committee meetings as well. A lot of the feedback we got from Blanchard families was, how dare you, don't do this, this is a terrible idea. A lot of the feedback we got from Conant families, from Miriam families, from McTee families are, how dare you, don't do this. Here are the 17 things I love about my school. And so one of the things that our chair, Tori, actually did in responding to most of the Boxborough and Blanchard families was, we totally hear you. Tell us some more about the school. And the responses that we got from the community members about what they love about the school were absolutely amazing. And it will be very informative as the committee deliberates this, that they've gotten that information. The other thing that I would ask as you're talking with people, first of all, please invite them to reach out to us as well. But secondly,
I did tell them.
Oh, trust us. We're like, it's not us.
Yeah, but
Oh,
secondly,
Wait, we haven't given out your home address yet, though.
might have happened before. The second thing I would say is I would love for people to start thinking about what's next. So let's say that Blanchard is saved. Blanchard remains a pre-K to 6 school. What does that look like? And what does that look like in relation to the options that remain. Because what I would love for our community to do is to start thinking about what's important beyond Blanchard being a K-6 school, because that's kind of what I'm thinking about as I'm asking questions and trying to dig deeper into what do these options mean. Because I think that, you know, if we get everything we want, we still may not have everything we want. And I would really love to know what's important about Blanchard. What are the things that we don't want to lose no matter what happens, not just the fact that we keep a K-6 school in the district. So I think that that's a, you know, as leaders in the town, that's something that you can go back to people, and as they say, don't do this, you say, okay, we are fighting, we're all fighting for that, but let's think about what's next, because what I would hate for is this sense that the community has right now that they feel lesser or that they're not feeling heard. I would hate for that to come back once they realize that they got everything they wanted and it maybe didn't end up being what they wanted. And so I want, and this is the process that, again, this is why the process is so long and so public, is so that people start thinking about that, we complicate their thinking, and try to get more from the community.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Okay, anything else for Adam?
I want to give you a
Oh, you have
quick-
more for us?
I've got more for
Okay.
you. So just very quickly, we received our enrollment report last week at the school committee meeting. Surprise, surprise, our enrollment continues to decline.
Well, overall enrollment continues.
Overall
to decline.
enrollment continues to decline,
Right.
which obviously fiscally hurts us and hurts the towns, as we have a lot of fixed costs that don't decline as the enrollment goes down. We did vote our budget guidelines for next year's budget with a range between 3 3/4% and 4 1/4%. And so this is something that I've been digging into a lot this year, and I just want to highlight, as both the Finance Committee and the Select Board start to look at and finalize budget guidance for the town, our operating budget at the school level is going to be below 5%. And I think it's really important that when we're comparing budgets, we're comparing each entity's operating budget and not the assessment that gets put on the towns. And I recognize that that's hard because the assessment is what the town has to pay. But after 4 years of cuts at the school level and level service at the town level, it's beginning to feel inequitable. And I don't know how to solve that other than the fact that the operating budget for the schools, understandably, is gigantic, and it's really hard to dive into all of the details. We're doing our best to keep that low, and I think it shows good faith if we can do similar on the town side. The money that you might save on the town side is not going to save a teacher's position. It's not going to save the things that we're going to continue to have to cut. But I think it would show some good faith to the school and the staff if we're able to sort of look at those and compare them operating budget to operating budget as opposed to operating budget to assessment.
I think we'll probably do both. I think the challenge is, like, we'll be talking about FinCom recommendations for budget guidelines, and then we'll be making our decision. I think our challenge is that we already run so close to the bone. And I understand you don't agree with that.
No, I totally agree with that.
It's
but
like,
the schools have been cutting into the bone, and that's the point. It does not look good when you are able to carry a level service, and the schools haven't had level service for years. It doesn't look good at town meeting when we advocate for, and
Right.
I recognize that not a lot of people in this room advocated for it, but in the end, the town advocated and received additional funds and additional staffing when we continue to cut at the school level. And I think we just have to reconcile that in public somehow.
I think we'll continue to have this discussion. Again, we can go back in time. The additional staff that we added last year was necessary to take care of all of our populations. You have one population to take care of, and we have to take care of everybody. Police, fire, DPW, human services. So again, we were behind in taking care of some of those people, and so we had to catch up. The FinCom is going to be tough on us this year. I don't see us adding anything this year. But again, just like I promised at the school committee meeting, we will be transparent. We will have conversations. And ultimately, town meeting is going to decide where the resources go. But I've committed to being at your meetings, you've committed to being here so that we can bring information back and forth as much as possible.
Yep.
So, but there will be debates. I have to believe that a police officer is just as important as a teacher, and we're just gonna have to figure it out.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
And, and we've cut 80 teachers. That's.
But we don't have any police to cut. That's our problem. We don't have anything to cut. I can't say, we will just like not, we just will let one less criminal into town this year. You have to deal with.
I mean,
okay.
the
We
schools
can
take
debate this for
advantage of
months.
fire and police as well.
Yeah.
I think that we need to continue to have the discussion around the optics of it and how we justify it. And,
Sure.
you know, we talked
That's
about
fair.
this at the tri-board. We all sort of get input from our silos, and, you know, I would love for more seniors to come to our budget subcommittees, and I would love for more parents to come here and advocate as well. So I think it's.
Yeah. I think
it's-
you're going to see a lot more discussion. I think one of the benefits
Yeah.
of AB Forward is I think a lot more people are cognizant of what's going on.
Yep.
Whereas before it was really easy to say, not my job, I elected you people, you figure it out.
Right.
Now we're probably going to get more input than we want.
Yep. So the last update I want to give you is we did have our state legislators come to our school committee meeting last week. They told us all of the wonderful things that they're doing. We told them all of the troubles that we're having. There's been some support from them on the Chapter 70 review, which we'll talk about a little later. We did get some very interesting feedback from Simon Cataldo, who's the rep for
He
Arts
was
of Acton.
great, actually.
Basically, he said, find something that helps only you, because if you find a solution that helps everybody, the pie is only so big and it won't help everybody. So,
Yeah.
I
That was
think
good input.
We took that to heart, and we're going to try and find the thing that just helps us.
I guess as he told Concord the same.
Adam, real quick, I don't know if you have the answer. You mentioned enrollment's going down. Do you have a sense of Boxborough versus Acton? From the ones, what you got last week?
I think we went up by 2, and I think Acton went down several, as of the October 1st numbers.
We went up 2 pupils?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and nobody really knows what Powder Mill is going to do. Like, we have no sense of what all those apartments are going to do in terms of enrollment.
Right.
And not only that, but the NESDEC, the company that we use for our enrollment projections, don't take housing starts into account.
Yeah.
We've asked them to, and we'll get a report as soon as everything's back up and running, but the report that we got didn't include any of that information.
Good.
Any other questions for Adam? Because we're kind of ticking off stuff that we would have been doing later, so this is not a waste of time, we're just jiggering things. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Let's get to the fun stuff.
Oh, I'm not fun?
Oh, let's get to the funner stuff. Financial status update. Finance Committee Chair, come on up. Maria, you can sit with him if you want.
Nope, that's okay.
Whoa, I love that support, whoa!
Can we put his presentation up on the screen?
Yeah, I've got some slides that I sent.
Thank you.
So this is about the,
Do you want the pointer? Sometimes it's
I
just
don't
nice
think,
if
I
you're
don't
talking
think I
about
really
stuff.
need actually.
No? Okay.
No. This is about the budget strategy and the budget guidelines that we've shared with Mike and with the Select Board. So first slide, if you can get to the first slide, or next slide. Yeah. So the background to all of this is that our levy limit increases 2.5% a year, plus new growth. Can you go back one actually? So on average, in the last 10 years, that's been a 4.3% growth in the levy limit. We heard tonight that new growth in the town was actually less last year than we had forecast, and town growth is low. So that's a topic for us to I think about, is how do we increase that new growth number. So that average number may be down even lower now if we look at the 10 years rolling into this year. Our levy increase has been 5.5% on average over the last 10 years. So the result of that is that we're now at the point where we have an excess levy capacity of 72,000 roughly. It'll be less now actually based on the figures we got tonight. So we are at the point where we will need to do a levy limit increase by a Prop 2.5 override if we want to increase our budget by a similar amount in this budget year. There's been discussion about what that number should be actually, even within FinCom, whether 5.5% is too much, whether we should have a 5% increase, or even less than that actually. So that's a topic for that's still being discussed within FinCom.
So Tony, just so everyone's, let's just say it's 5%. You're saying 5% in total, not 2.5 plus 5%.
5%, yeah, because that's what we've been doing, 5%.
In
So
total.
if you include the school assessments, the town increase, all those things, it should, it's been rolling up to 5.5% over the last 10 years. And, you can predict that will be the similar amount going forward.
Right, so 5.5 and you got 2.5, so basically you're saying it's a 3% over 2.5% is the cap. Yes, that's right, yeah. Yeah. What we're saying is that if you put those two lines, the 4.3% and the 5.5%, they're going to converge, and they have converged now at this point. So there's no gap to actually work in.
Does everybody understand that an override increasing the levy limit doesn't mean we are taxing people up to the new levy limit? We're trying to create headroom. Does everyone understand that?
Right.
Okay, just making sure.
And I think that's really sort of part of the strategy actually that we talk about here. So we've not had an operational override since 2006. That's 20 years ago. So we've done a pretty good job actually in keeping within that limit all those years. But I think the fact is that all towns reach this point, and certainly right now it's clear that many towns are having difficulties keeping within that override limit. So next slide, Kelly. So the way we think we should tackle this is, firstly, I think we need to have a stated budget strategy for the town, and we don't really seem to have that at the moment. So the strategy that the FinCom will recommend is this. One is that we continue to keep a tight rein on budgets by line assessment of the budget. But this year I think that's even more important based on where we stand. Maintaining an annual levy increase up to a target of 5.5%, and again that is a debatable number, I think, even within FinCom. So there's discussion about making that a lower number because that's clearly above inflation, that number. But we also have costs which increase more than inflation. I mean, education being one of them, actually, as well as other factors that we have in our budget, healthcare costs that increase beyond that point. So we're up against some tough challenges, I think, in the budget. Certainly, we should operate within our financial policies. So we have set policies for what reserves we keep in place, and we don't want to be dipping into reserves to fund our budget beyond the guidelines that we've set for ourselves, and that's very important in terms of bond rating and things like that as well. So we've done that. I mean, for example, I think the stabilisation fund, which we did dip into a couple of years ago for budgeting purposes, is getting very close to the limit because we set a limit of 5% of operating budget. As the operating budget increases, we'll need to increase the stabilisation fund to actually make the 5% good again. So thinking about some of those things as we move into the budget process. But with all of those things in place, we think we should be saying an operational override is something we anticipate to have every 10 to 20 years. This is not an unexpected event. It's not an emergency event. It's not a panic event. It's actually something we should expect to do based on the Prop 2.5 law. That every town does this. It's now our moment to actually be doing this. So we should see this as a planned and calm event to actually do.
And I was just going to say, we turn on any news station, they're talking about it. All towns are talking about facing a 2.5 override.
Right.
They threw up a slide just tonight, one of the news stations. Yeah. There were 12 towns that were considering it this year.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than that. Sam, who shared, or was it Adam, that was like 167 communities are going to be looking at an override this year?
What? I didn't see
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. Maybe there's 12 this month, but it's well into the hundreds.
Oh, okay.
Was it 67 or 87? I forget. Somebody shared that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem is people see the override as being, it's a tax increase. They're going to increase my taxes because we're doing an override. We should really get away from that narrative and say, well, taxes will increase every year, this 5.5% or whatever percentage we set as our strategy. an override is necessary to cater for that and to give us some headroom to do that for the next 10 years. So that's the plan. We're currently sort of modelling out what we would like to look for in terms of an override, in terms of how many millions of dollars we want to make the override for to give us enough headroom for that 10-year run rate. We'll model that out. And the final thing is, I think, the capital investments we make in town, I think, are very important. We have to maintain our equipment, our emergency equipment, our DPW equipment, and we don't want to sort of stop doing that. So, but most of that is bonded actually. So it increases our bonding, debt servicing costs, of course. But we need to keep doing that. And of course, the fire station is another upcoming challenge we're going to have in terms of debt servicing costs. So that's the strategy that we have sort of mapped out as a FinCom. So next slide is really how we're approaching this in terms of the budget guidelines. So these guidelines we've shared and discussed with Mike, and Mike has sent out guidance to the departments in the town around these. So there's essentially we have to do two budgets this year. The A budget is status quo in a way, assuming the override passes. This is a level services budget. This is, growing at less than 5.5%. Similarly for the Acton Boxborough assessment, and that's again a discussion point: is should it be based on the assessment or the actual Acton Boxborough budget, as Adam just talked about? And I'll tell you my position actually is I think we ought to make it based on the Acton Boxborough budget, but yeah. I'm actually I think the lone voice in FinCom about that.
Well, you got me to join you. I'll be the law. You know what? I'll be the law. Yeah.
So I think so that's going to be a debating point. I think it was you have our budget Saturday discussion and other discussions going forward. This year we need to really take a tough line on hiring. No new positions, no new hours, no new adjustments. Obviously there are contracted and CBA commitments that we have around that. And for warrant articles and capital, we need to take a close look at those as always. But we'll use we do have some free cash we can use, and we'll use bonding, of course, for major expenses. The B budget, which we have to put in place, I think, and so we need to vote on both budgets at town meeting, is essentially a level funded budget, less than 2% growth, and for both school and for town. This will inevitably mean staff reductions. There's no way of getting around that because we have many costs that increase regardless: healthcare, pensions, insurances, debt servicing, all of those things increase regardless, whatever we do. So I think this will fall disproportionately on heads, which is the main cost in the budget. So we have to understand that, and I think the town needs to understand that, what this looks like, and also what it looks like for the school, because it will be devastating for the school, actually, I believe.
I think draconian would be an appropriate word. Yeah. So the town needs to understand, what this really means in terms of what this option is, and the same with warrant articles and capital. Very minimal approaches to that. So that's actually it. That's what we have in terms of strategy and guidelines from the FinCom. You've seen these already, of course, and Mike's seen them and actioned them. Mm-hmm. But that's where we are. Questions for Tony? Comments?
Either Tony or Mike, I guess really Tony, what's the timeline? When are you looking for first round budgets?
I think there's a date, Mike. You have a timetable for first pass on your budgets, I think.
Sure. So administration and finance are reviewing department budgets right now. We'll be meeting, Hanwara, John and I, we'll be meeting with each department head on the 1st and 2nd. And then we'll be bringing it to Select Board to present in December. And I'm sure that FinCom will be there as well. And then we'll bring it to Capital Saturday, the first Saturday in January.
So when you bring it to the Select Board at that meeting, are you bringing both budgets, A and B? Or what are you bringing?
We're preparing both budgets at the same time.
and my word here, what you bring to us hasn't been blessed by anybody at that time.
At that point, the department budgets have come through administration and finance, but they've not been voted. But what we'll be presenting is a balanced budget.
Okay.
And that's very high level in December.
Yeah.
You know, we're going through it line by line with the departments. Or we will be, Monday and Tuesday after Thanksgiving. But it'll actually be line by line with Select Board and Finance Committee on the first Saturday in January.
Wicked fun. Okay, so so what we're looking at is double-digit increases in health insurance, right, Maya? Retirement. What else? I mean, I think those are the two biggest drivers of our budgets that we have zero control over. What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing a finger here.
Yeah, health insurance is the biggest.
Retirement.
We're projecting at about 20%.
Okay, 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Health?
And we went to Maya to save money.
That is saving us money. We would be in the high 20s if we hadn't gone to Maya.
Okay.
This is a nationwide.
Yeah.
We're seeing this, and not just within Maya, but across all.
What percentage of our budget is insurance? Is health insurance? Well, no, because we have to put it in perspective. It's like statistics. We can say insurance is going up 20%, but if it's only 5% of our budget, is it the impact that we think it is? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a big part of our budget.
And if you don't know right now, don't guess. I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
out loud.
I think that's good information that we can put together, I think. So I think
Yes,
this is going to be a sort of an educational
Yeah.
process for the town, I think, to
Off
actually
the top, I
understand.
would
Right.
say it's
Yeah.
5 to 6% of our total budget.
Total budget,
Mm.
okay. Because again, you can play a statistic in multiple ways. Because I know the other thing that Mike and I have talked about is, we have significant contract limitations. So
Right.
we have made promises, so, and agreements, so it would be.
They're not promises, they're written contracts.
They're agreements, right. Well, to me, a promise you hold to. But
Well, yeah.
regardless, you're right, so it's an agreement. Okay, so we're gonna have to start breaking all that down and really understanding it.
So what I think is important is the approach that Tony is taking on presenting and educating the community on this. This is a course correction that every community has to do.
Yeah.
Because we know that the cost of labor and materials is going higher than what the state is allowing us to just increase annually. Coupled with that, our new growth is also not keeping up. And we're going to continue to talk about that. We need to address that. But that's not a 1 or 2 year fix.
Right.
That's something that we need to fix long term. We need to start working on now. But that, methodical approach to this and getting people to realize this is a course correction so that we can, whether it's 5% or 5.5%, that, the budget's going to go up. We need to have the mechanics to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, when people read, in Boxborough News this past week, that, if we got to go to the Budget B target, that'll mean staff reductions, people, they just see the one sentence.
Staff reduction.
So I was getting contacted over the weekend and today, is my job in jeopardy? Am I gonna lose? And we don't want people to panic. We need to focus on how do we get to Budget A? How do we wisely, smartly get to that? And that's exactly where Tony's going with this. And so I don't want people to panic and all of a sudden we've got a mass exodus of staff and we get to the spring and Budget A passes and now we're trying to fill 4 or 5 positions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not helpful in getting there. So we don't want panic. We want to actually be very methodical, be thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've let our department heads know that when we sit down to review their budgets with them, we're going to go line by line the week after Thanksgiving. And anything on the A, that any in particular line or your entire budget that's over the 5.5%, it's going to need a lot of explaining. And anything that's not obvious is going to need explaining. And we're going to do Budget B as much as we can do both budgets in those 2 days. It might take us the whole week, we'll see. that anything that's over 2% is gonna need a lot of explaining. And then, we'll work to get within that.
I think it's reasonable to think that operational expenses could stay within that 2%, but we have contract between steps and raises. I mean, that's 5.5% for most people that currently have a contract with the town. But I think that the message that every single person who works for the town should get is we're going to do our best to maintain our services. That is our goal, is level services, and please don't leave. Give us some time. Let us figure it out.
And I think we need to understand why it is that costs are increasing more than inflation for the town and for the school, because there are big factors there, like the healthcare costs that people, that we can't get away from, that's just a fact of life, actually.
Mm-hmm. Any other board questions or comments? Adam?
Yeah, I just have one question. The schools are preparing a B budget, but as of yet, we don't really know what the target is. And if that 2% is a 2% operating budget increase or a 2% assessment increase to the town. And just as a point of fact, if there were a 2% assessment increase to the town, the school budget would go up by 0.73%, which would be essentially level funding the schools for next year. So just a point of reference that we know that the B budget is going to be terrible, but what we really need for the schools to do the budget planning is a very hard and fast number to budget to for a B budget. So as soon as the town, you guys can figure that out and give that to us.
Well, that'll be the select board guidelines. The FinCom, the select board actually sets the guidelines for the budget. The FinCom can support our recommendation or not. So that is actually next on the agenda, because we wanted to understand, the FinCom's ahead of us because they've already spent some significant working time on this.
Yeah, and it's, as you can imagine, the planning for that on the school side is going to be pretty significant. In addition to the reorganization, if we've got to come in with the B budget with the amount of cuts that means, there's a lot more planning and thinking that the schools need to do. So the sooner we can get that guideline, if that's tonight, that's awesome. Then we can start kicking off the B budget planning at the schools.
Adam, just a quick question for you. Who does the school use for their health insurance now?
We use GIC.
Okay, so
No, I'm sorry, we're on Maya as
You're
well.
Maya
That's what I
also.
was- I-
Yeah, the town, yeah, you're on
18%
Maya.
was what we were told to budget from Maya.
How much?
18%.
18%.
Because that's what I was questioning.
Yeah.
I thought you eventually went to Maya.
We did
You're
go to
right.
Maya, I apologize. Yeah, GIC is what I've heard both last year and this year.
Right.
Ended up being underfunded and needed to get additional funds from.
Right, exactly.
rate
So
holders.
you did switch last year to Maya?
Yep.
And then Maya's telling you 18%?
Yes.
Do you have a guaranteed rate this year?
I don't know.
Like, is this your second year with Maya?
This would be our second year with them.
Okay, so that's what we had last year. We had a guaranteed rate last year, and that's why our increase was limited to, I think
Was it 14% last
like
year?
It was like the Maya standard. It was kind of the average of
Exactly.
all.
So
Yeah,
that's
I
what-
had 14%.
So that's what we had
Yeah.
last year, and we were told, expect an increase.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have been as low last year, except that we had that second year guarantee. And that's where they are with the 18%. We're told expect about 20% for
And-
ours.
and I
And
will
for
share-
us, it's 20%?
Yeah, but that's not guaranteed. It could be lower, it could be higher,
Yeah.
but that's about where they think we'll be. We'll find out in January.
Our retiree health insurance went up by 40%. And that was after we switched to a cheaper provider. It was going to be in the range of 50%
Yeah,
increase on the retiree health.
we're seeing a very high increase in retiree, in Medicare, and the GLP-1 drugs are driving a lot of things through the roof. Likewise, as Adam said, he's waiting, the school is waiting to find out what's their B budget percent gonna be. Likewise, I need to hear what theirs is gonna be, because I've already plugged, 5.5% and 2% in, and if it's something different than that, and that would be, I'm going on assessment, because I'm just putting what it went up from last year. So, just like Adam, Hung Hwa and I are waiting to see, because we're looking to keep the whole budget at a certain, so we'll be interested
Well,
to see.
Well, why don't we just move right into that discussion then? Like, everyone stay right where they are. Well, because it's a,
Just
yeah,
stay here?
yeah, just stay right there. We can all talk. Then you have a microphone, Tony. All right, so would you like to start us off on the discussion? What are your thoughts on the select board's policy?
Yep. So from a very simple standpoint, I think the two budgets, and Tony and I talked about the language, you know, A should be level services budget, and that's what we've done for the last number of years, and B should be level funded. I can tell you where we are now with already making some recommended cuts and not having discussed them through, because we haven't met with the department heads yet, but we're at 5.57% for the A budget for the town. And
5.57?
Yep, and that's not town, that's the entire budget, that's plugging the school in at 5.5, and factoring the town. And then
Assessment?
assessment. And then we're at 3.1%. And, you know, I expect we'll have some hard conversations next week, and we'll be able to move these down. But, you know, whatever you decide, if you decide it's 5% and 1% for A and B, you know, that's what we'll drive towards. And, you know, from where we are now, you know, I think we can get to 5.5, we're there.
But that's based
Yeah.
on the assessment, which isn't,
Correct.
it's just not realistic. It is just absolutely not realistic to think that our assessment's only gonna go up 5.5%, based on the rolling enrollment and based on what we know.
Right, and I'm not trying to drive that it should be.
No, I'm
But I
just
have
making a
nothing else to
comment,
work
like
from.
okay. Because part of what I think, you guys, is that I personally feel like we need more information before we can even really figure out what A or B is. And I think it's really easy to say level service and level funded to get started, to start the conversation, but that's not where we're gonna end, because then we're gonna have to make those difficult decisions that we make as parents. You know, what child needs what right now and what child can go without. And we're gonna have to do the same thing for the town. There's just no way around it, even with an override. But what are your thoughts?
I really would like FinCom to give us a little bit more guidance, like as we proceed with this. I think, Kristen, I'm not, especially given this year, I'm not in a position, like, I know we give them and they do it, but in this year, I think they should give us a little bit more and before we decide, because it's,
Well, right.
in terms of like how we should proceed.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and frankly, it is a live topic still, I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
these questions within FinCom about what should that number be for the A budget.
Yeah.
There's been pushback within FinCom about what that should be. I mean, we've given preliminary guidance already, so that's what started the ball rolling. But
Yeah.
that may be we come back later and say we actually can't do that. We're going to need to at Budget Saturday
Yeah.
trim back from that number. And then the other question, which is a hot topic, is the school assessment versus the school budget.
Budget, yeah.
And I think I'm the voice of one saying it should be the budget in the FinCom. So that's a debatable topic. If we have a school budget increase rolled into the overall budget, that means the town part has to be even less, of course, to absorb that increase. So now we're not talking about 5% for the town, we're talking about a smaller number for the town, because if we're going to accept that the school budget increase, the school assessment increase is going to be more than 5.5%, and that's half the budget, more than half the budget, then we need to have a lower increase for the town.
Yeah.
So these are all things we're going to need, I think, Budget Saturday, I'm sort of seeing maybe the time when we sort of have to have that conversation about, well, where do we balance these things out to make it work?
How much work is it? The piece that I'm grappling with is I want to understand how much do we need to raise and appropriate for level services, and so that everything stays the same. And what would that look like for the tax rate? So for me, that's a foundational piece of information, because I want to know how bad it is. Are my taxes going up $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 a year? Because that's really what it comes down to, is what can the average taxpayer
Right.
stomach, right? Because they've got to vote for this. And that's independent from the override. The override is about levy
Yeah.
limits. This is about
Yeah.
taxation. And then you work your way backwards, and you start figuring out, you know, what can go. Because I guess my concern is if you cleave to a percentage, that's not actually telling me what the town needs to operate. Does this make sense?
Yeah. So level services.
And I don't know how much
level
work that is,
services
because then you're almost
may-
doing 3 budgets.
Level services may or may not be 5.5%. It may be higher than that, actually.
Yeah.
Because if you take into account pay raises,
Right.
and you take into account, you know, healthcare costs and pension costs and all those things, it may well be that just everything's staying the same as much as you can.
Yeah.
It may be more than 5.5%. Yeah, I think it's a very good question, actually. I mean,
Right, because that was gonna be my question. And
Yeah.
You mentioned 5, and I was gonna say, do you have a sense of what that percentage is? Is it 6%? Is it 5%? Is it 5%?
For
I
level
think-
services, you mean?
Yeah, for level services, yeah.
well, I think we need, that's why we need to see Mike's budget come in to sort of see
Right.
what that looks like, because that's going to be the level services budget. If he can bring that in at 5.5%, that validates in a way that number.
Right.
But if he says, well, actually, to get to this 5.5%, I'm going to need to cut a service or
Yeah.
services,
Then that's not level services.
and it's not level
anymore.
service. Yeah, it's not level services. Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
that's my
yeah.
concern.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there was a department head that talked to us about the need for, you know, some accounting software that costs $17,000. Now, that looks like an increase of $17,000, but if it saves us money, is that really an increase? We've talked about, you know, there was a lot of brouhaha about police officers leaving and how much that cost us. Well, we brought them in at a super low step. You know, it's you need all the background information. It's not a cursory level look way up here.
Yeah.
We've got to drill down and figure out the cost benefit analysis
Right.
of anything we spend. So
Yeah.
it's really easy to say, hey town, you just spent an extra %, and that's not fair. But again, if we're looking at that big picture, if it saves us 5% in 2 years, then it's money well spent. So that's where I'm going to be. Adam.
I just want to challenge the language a bit here.
Sure.
What you're talking about is level municipal services, and I think
Yeah.
we should be really clear that no matter what, we are not level service funding our community's needs.
I understand,
And-
but I
and
still
so-
need to understand what level service for the municipality means.
No, that's absolutely fine, and, you know, we do the same on the school side, but I think it's just really important as you then begin to look at the decision, it's not about level service funding. It's how do we fund the 2 main cost drivers, and what is the equitable distribution between that? And we've not level funded the schools for many years. And so I just wonder, what does it look like if we continue to level fund the municipal side and not level fund? So, you know, we talk about the needs, the town has needs, there are all of those needs. They are equal on the school side that we have not been able to meet. And we've been making cuts, and we're continuing to do all of that.
Right.
So I just think it's really important when you get down to more around the absolute value of dollars that are available,
Right.
to look at that as a relationship, you know, which one is going up more versus the other, and making sure that we're behind that decision, as
Right.
opposed to where the assessments are going.
Again, the struggle I have is you have more levers to pull. Like, so, and I forget the gentleman's name, that you were looking at class sizes, and what's the impact of class sizes? How many teachers do we need versus do not need? And I feel like right now, the class size in some grades is a luxury, and this is as a former teacher. You know, I would have loved to have 14 kids in my class. I didn't, I had 20-something. So I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is you have more levers to pull than we do. Again, I can't say, I would like 5 more criminals to stay out of town this year because we had to cut a cop. I can't do that, you know?
No, I totally understand it, and that, I mean.
And you have
I
things
would-
you have to do,
I would
special
not
ed, you
be-
have to do
I
it.
would not be on a AB Forward Steering Committee, and we would not be looking to reorganize the entire school district if we weren't trying to pull all the levers. But
Right.
at the same point, absolute value-wise, the schools have been cutting over the past 4 years.
I
And think-
understand, yeah.
And I think it's just something that we need to consider as we look at the conversation around level servicing the municipal side and cutting the school side. And I think one way to look at that is, if we were our own school district again and had responsibility entirely for this, we would be going to the school department, which again would be the largest portion of the budget, and saying to the school department, you must cut in the town of Boxborough while we're going to level service for all the needs that we have on the other side. I recognize the challenge there. I just want to put that into perspective because it hurts for me to hear a talk of level service funding on the town side when we have been for years and years on the school side reducing our services. And we've been doing that in response to a reduction in student enrollment, to smaller class sizes, all of that stuff. We're doing that as quickly as we can, but at the same point, we still have less than what we've had in the past, even with where our student population is.
That is noted. I do understand that. And part of that is, like I said, it's information gathering to understand what the foundation is, because I don't know that we as a town did that even the last couple of years, you know, whether we really understood what's the foundation. So, okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Chris, just what you just said about software, $17,000 software, it's gonna save us money. That's a warrant article. And so that's a conversation we have around warrant articles in which we said we're gonna scrutinize them, but we also have free cash. And so we, you know, level service doesn't include the software, because new software is gonna come in as a warrant article.
I was kind of like using that as an example,
I
because
know.
I love Adam, but he's gonna jump up at every article and say, I wanna say,
I
the
understand
town is
that,
spending
but-
more money.
Okay, but like, the reality we have is we have $4.2 million in free cash, which we can't use to fund the budget, because then that gets us into trouble by using reserves and down the line, and we can ask Adam about that, because he knows, because the school lived that, right? So we can't use that for that. So when you talk about level service,
True, yeah.
it's truly level service, and if we're talking about softwares and equipment and all of that, that's a different, you know, paying for an academy. We have a fund for that.
Yeah.
That's a warrant article. So I think we need to stay focused on what a level service operating budget is. And there's a lot of stuff that may be, I've heard mentioned, that are warrant articles that could be funded through free cash.
Okay, fair
But,
enough,
You know,
fair enough.
just think about that as we. yeah.
Yep, fair enough. Okay. Well, I'm looking for some guidance, everybody.
There's one other thing
Oh, Mike has one
to
more thing.
keep in mind, and that is, in the past, it seemed like the town operated without any redundancy on the municipal side. So you had single-person offices, you had kind of a bare bones, you know, the DPW, police, fire, et cetera. If there is a cost when you don't have some sort of redundancy and cross-functional training, you lose somebody, now you lose several months until you, and things turn into a disaster, until you bring somebody in, then train them. I think the town is in a point where it doesn't have any excess meat or fat, but it also is able to continue operating if somebody leaves or if somebody is sick. And Tony, one of the things that Tony and I talked about is, you know, what happens if we have to cut and where can we not cut? And, you know, specifically we talked about, you know, some of the unions. If you have to cut, where is that point where it costs you more to cut?
The replacement costs.
Because the replacement cost, but also to fill this, you still have to fill shifts.
Well, that's what I mean by replacement. If you cut someone,
Yes.
you still have to have someone driving the cruiser
Overtime.
wearing a gun.
Except you're filling them in with.
Oh, and please no, I'm only using police because it's easy.
Right.
You still need a plow driver, yeah.
But, and that's something that we'll work with a little bit is, because, okay, if, let's say you cut 2 people in X department, and now you've got to fill those shifts, now you're filling those in with time and a half or double time pay, so there's, you know, there's a point of less returns. And we'll look at where those are. We talked about that a little bit.
So we've been talking lightly about this for quite a long time. We've been talking about this since last year. I mean, so I really am looking for some input from the board on your thoughts on the direction that we're going to be giving Mike, because he's meeting with.
I think what Tony put up, right? Like, I mean, have a and a B, like what the FinCom suggested, and then we'll have to like
I think
redo.
you've given them a pretty clear request, Kristen.
But I want to know what you all think. It's not the Kristen show. It's
Yeah,
us.
what percentage does level services look like? That's a very clear next piece of information.
And you're
I
comfortable
don't
with
know.
it?
Of course, that's
Okay.
what, yeah.
Wes, Bob?
yeah, for me, I'm gonna support Tony in the FinCom. I think the 5.5 and the 2% numbers are what I wanna see. If they can get to those numbers, that's what I wanna see. 5.5 and the 2%, 5.5% for the A budget and 2% for the B budget is what I wanna see.
So you're more interested in the percentages and the services?
I am.
Okay. Wes?
I'm all about the services.
You know, about services?
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't even know, so, right, it could be 4%, and
Well,
then
let's
we
get
just
all-
give them
let's-
an extra 1.5%. So if we don't even know what percent would level services be, then I don't know, like, just picking an arbitrary percent's kind of like saying Prop 250 to me. So it's not really gonna,
So you're looking at what services would be cut, or?
no, I'm saying, like, what does level services look like? Like, what is the
What's the
percentage
foundation?
Yeah.
increase?
So it sounds like what we need to do is look at the first pass that comes from Mike and the department heads for the A budget and the B budget, and understand what that really means in terms of a level services budget. Is that level, is 5.5% level services, or is it actually a cut to level services? Or more than level services, we just don't know yet. I mean, and then we have to
To
sort of.
Wes's point, it could be 4% for
It
level
could be- it
service,
could be-
wouldn't
I
that
mean, we're
But you
probably
could-
Yeah.
looking at, you probably came up with that number looking at historic data.
Yeah, we
right?
did. Yeah,
Year
that's
over
exactly
year. Like,
exactly what it is.
yeah.
I mean, what we're trying to do is maintain the status quo. Really, we're trying to say,
Yeah.
let's continue. We've been fairly conservative budgeting over the
Yeah.
last 10 years. Let's continue that track. Assume that
Yeah.
things stay the same. Inflation is more or less the same, and that's what we're working to. So it's trying to have this idea that we have a longer term strategy. This is a multi-year strategy. This is not just this year.
Yeah.
And we're working towards then having an override that gives us some run room for the next 10 years. But what we don't know is when you actually put the pen to the paper and say, well, okay, then what are all of these, what are these costs going to be for the town? What does that really look like at level services? And do we need to cut back that further? Because then we've got a question about, I think the school budget is the big factor in that.
Right.
I think we need to, allow for that actually. And it's also going to be part of what we need to explain to the town, I think, is the reasons why we need the override, the reasons why Prop 2.5 doesn't allow us to do what we need to do as a town, both town service-wise and education services-wise. And it's a very rational, actually, position to take that we're taking.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to explain it, I think, and make people understand that this is what we all have to go through. I mean, and it's not the sky's going to fall. It's not a massive tax increase. It's actually just steady state, steady as you go process.
Right, I think the thing that is a big question in my mind is that I'm saying, no one can answer. I mean, we're talking about, 18% health insurance increase. What's the health insurance gonna do next year? Is it gonna be 18% again next year? I mean, who knows what it's gonna do?
Mm.
So, I mean,
But yes, I think it's important that we understand the impact of that on the entire budget. So I think that's a good question to sort of get to. I think in
I
terms
think
of
retirement and health insurance are my two
Yeah.
red flags based
what
on
the
what you were
things
saying.
what are the
and
things
what
that
Adam was
what
saying.
are the budget drivers? I mean, we had the same
Yeah.
budget drivers last year when we presented to town meeting. We said
right.
these are the budget drivers. These are the things which have gone up more than the budget, and we have to deal with.
Exactly.
And it'll be the same thing this year around. We have to say these are the things that we cannot control that are driving the budget beyond the rate of inflation, basically.
Right.
I mean, because everyone's going to say, well, why is it more than the rate of inflation? Certain things cost more, and we can't avoid paying them.
So the other thing, all right, so I have two things in my mind. One is, what information does the select board need to understand to make a recommendation on growth target for the school? Is it the school's budget, or is it Foxborough's assessment? Because if you remember that those are very, very different numbers. And we have to think about the ramifications of that decision. So what information do you all need to understand that, to be able to make a decision?
Need to know the pros and the cons for both of them, I guess. Like, because once we switch, we're planning to, I mean, we probably were with an assessment for a reason up until now, right? So I don't wanna like switch to something without knowing what we are getting into.
Well, right, and I agree with you, and I think, unfortunately, I'm gonna, one of the things that, Monday morning quarterbacking, or hindsight, whatever you wanna call it, is always great. I mean, people are questioning now our decision to get out of Minuteman, to leave that. And at the time, it made sense. So to your point, exactly, before we switch again.
We stepped over a quarter to pick up a dime with Minuteman.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. We don't want to step over a quarter to pick up a dime. Yeah. All right. I think I would need to understand what those numbers are, and like you were saying, understand the ramifications of it. So I don't know that we're going to be able to give a guideline on that.
So this is, I think, an iterative process, right? So what we have is a situation where we're saying, if we say that fairness means that the school budget needs to be at 5.5%, say, and we still want to be within 5.5% for the entire town budget, then that means that the town budget has to be 3%. I don't know what the number is, but we've got to do the math on that. But it puts it back then to Mike to say, you can't have 5.5% for the town.
Right.
Right, I think that's what we need.
It's equity versus what's fair. And a lot of times people use equity and fairness as the same, but in this case, it is so
No.
We
We talked about sharing the pain basically in the FinCom discussion. The question is what is the appropriate amount of pain to share between town and school.
Right.
And again, I'll say, the FinCom were believing it should be based on the assessment. So, but as a group, I mean, I was speaking.
And my gut is it's the budget. What are anybody have a gut thought right now, or are people not prepared to even go there? I see all the shaking heads, not prepared to go there.
More
I can't
information
go there.
needed. Iterative process.
Yeah.
So, Adam, you might correct me if I'm wrong, but I wrote these numbers down from FinCom. I think Liz may have said it last week. The AB operating budget at 3.75% operating budget equals a Boxborough assessment at 5.58%. Now, Adam said tonight, right? Did you not say 3 3/4 to 4.25? Yep. Okay. At 4.25, the assessment is 6.17%. So that kind of gives you an idea of what our assessment is coming in at the numbers that he put forward. Now, I don't have the numbers, I have them written down at home, what that increase is over last year.
Right.
But that's kind of where those numbers range. So the assessment ranges from, based on what Adam said tonight, 5.8% to 6.17%. And again, I don't know what that increase is because I wasn't thinking I was going to be talking about this tonight. So.
Right, sorry. No, well, it gets back to, we've used the word iterative a couple of times. Okay, so it's okay, go ahead.
One quick thought, just another way to think about this.
Yes, please.
Is to think about what is the available revenue that we feel we can raise for next year, and then looking at that and splitting that between the two large entities. So I want to be clear.
That's another way to do it.
We're never going to get at the school side. I have no expectation that we're going to have a level service budget. But I think instead of looking at what the municipal budget and the assessment go up by, or the municipal budget and the school budget go up by percentage-wise, there's a bucket of funds. We kind of know how much funds we have left or we're willing to appropriate. Look at that, and then look at that as the split compared to the previous year. And that's another way so that, what we're looking to do, right, is to share the pain more equally.
Right.
And the assessment's a hard way to do, the assessment or the percentage increase in budgets is a hard way to do that because of the complexity of the school side. So another way to look at it is in an absolute value, and then take that absolute value and find a split between that. And then the resultant increase in budgets is what the town can bear.
There's a book out right now, it's The Psychology of Spending, written by the same guy who wrote The Psychology of Money, and I can't remember his name. But basically, that's what he's saying. budget the other way. What are your resources, and then you portion it out, and that's what you spend. So it's fascinating that you came up with that too. Okay. One of what things you just said just triggered new growth. We have to figure out new growth, and the town planner's here. So we will be engaging with you because the FinCom did some analysis on our new growth over the last 10 years, and it's just, as we all know, tanking, and that's going to factor into our future significantly. And we'll be looking to have these discussions with the planning board on how we can all work together for the benefit of the whole town. And yes, protect open space and protect our water and protect our tree cover and protect our children and our roads in our town. So we are going to have to start having those conversations and work together instead of in our silos. Because I think that right now, one of the issues that this town faces, maybe it's all, is that we all work in a silo. And we're going to have to raise up a little bit. So that'll be fun. Right, Al? Wicked fun.
Okay.
All right, so it seems to me that the direction that we have now given is what's truly a level service budget without having your department head scrub, what's a scrubbed budget, and what's a level funded budget. Is that representative of what we said? We really want three?
Yeah. Right, because I mean, based upon what Wes said, I understand exactly what he's saying. It makes sense.
Yeah, maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised.
Exactly.
So, again,
Just lost you, did you say three?
there's actually three. What is actually level service, and what percentage
Right.
is that? A true level service.
Yep.
What is a scrubbed level service, for lack of a better word? You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're not going to lay anybody off, but we can do without this. We can do without, because to me, it saved the people, so to speak. So, and then what is a level funded, which is if you only have this year's money, how are you going to portion that out for your individual department? Is that okay? Is that what we all are thinking?
Yeah, I just need a little bit of definition on
Okay.
what the level services scrub means.
Well, basically what you just said, that you've asked everyone to sharpen their pencil to get down to 5.5%. So instead of, or whatever, or you said 5.57. So instead of cleaving to a percentage, what is that true level funded? What does it cost? Is it 4%? Is it 12%? I don't know.
Yeah.
What's true level funded? And then level service. Sorry, thank you. What is true level service? And then what would change if you got to 5.5%?
Right. I would prefer to work towards two budgets, and one is we start with the inputs that are for a level services budget, and then we actually look at, well.
Then don't make any cuts yet. Don't tell them to cleave to any percentage yet. Just do two budgets, and we talked about iterations. So just do level funded, nothing changes. You get the same amount of paper, the same amount of pens, the same amount of people.
No,
Right?
level funded, you're saying, right? Level service.
Level service, I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. I'm what is truly thank you. What is truly level service?
Yep.
Don't cleave to a percentage. Just give us a level service.
Right.
Give us a level funded, and that's our first iteration.
Right.
And then we look at it and we'll start making cuts, but don't pre-cut. Because we want to understand, if you start cutting ahead, if you start cutting, then you're not level service.
Well, it is though,
He's gotta be- he's gotta
because
be-
there are some places that are gonna come in and think they need more. And through the discussion process and dialogue, we can find out, no, we can deliver level service, and you can do it with less paper, or one less truck, or, I think that's what we're gonna get towards, is a level services budget next week by working with the department heads. And it takes that iterative dialogue to get there. So it's not necessarily the same amount of material, but it's what's the end user, what's the resident get as the service delivery. We want to make sure that, because some of them may have come in, their requests might have come in below a level services budget. And we want to make sure they're still delivering the service that the town deserves. And some of them may have come in above, and then some will be right on. But we want to work with them a little bit to get to find out where is that level services, and let the percentage fall where it does. And I would suggest that's what I bring back to you, is now we have the definition of level services, and it is 5.6, or it is 5.3, or wherever it falls out. We want to deliver level services. And then a truly level funded budget is 0. Right, because here's what you got last year, here's what you get this coming year. And I'm not suggesting we do that, but that's truly level funded.
Well, if the override doesn't pass, that's what we'll have to do.
Right.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I think what everyone is gonna have to get used to is because it's an override year, the select board is going to be much more involved. Much more.
Right.
We need to understand all of these ramifications.
understand.
We've kind of cruised along for the last couple of years because we haven't had to be involved, but now we do, because we're gonna be answering to people. So I think that's the pressure point that I'm feeling.
Right, because when you bring the level service, we might say, no, you can't go to 2 conferences, you can only go to 1 conference.
Yeah, but that's not your job.
Yeah, but that, I think what Kristen's saying, we're gonna have
But
to
I'm
make those.
telling you, that's not your job. Your job is to set the policy direction for the budget for the town. And then myself and the finance department go back and work with the department heads to figure out how to fulfill your budget guidance. I think you wanna stay up here and drive it, and you're gonna have to make some hard decisions, and it's harder to say no when you get down in the weeds.
Oh, yeah.
But you give administration and finance that policy guidance and stick to that guidance and let us go do the hard work and say no, and even though it's hard. I think that's where we belong, down in there, having those tough conversations, and you belong up at the higher policy level of telling us where you want to get to in the end. Level service, I think.
That's literally why we moved to the strong town administrator.
Okay, all right. Sam, what do you want to say? What do you think?
I'm good. I have nothing to add.
Do you, with Mike's last statement, do you agree that
Yeah.
we leave the tough job to him?
Mm-hmm.
I think like you can start, like, I mean, we still want, like, you're going to get FinCom involved with this?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah, FinCom's work and the administration and finance work comes after you set us the budget guidance. But you actually have the toughest job at the front, because if you say, this is all we're doing, you're the face of the town, and on TV, people remember, these 5 people did this to us, and we go carry that out. We're following orders, and I think that's what you should do. I think that's what you want to do.
So I think the key question that Mike can answer is, what does a level services budget look like in terms of the number? Is it, how far off of 5.5% or whatever is that number? So I think that's what you're going to get to, I think. Or, you're working towards that. You'll tell us either it can't be done within 5.5%, it needs to be more than that, or yes, it's doable, and there's some leeway there. So that's the thing that we need to understand, I think, as we start the process here. And then how do we absorb the school into that? That's the other big question.
With assuming a 20% health insurance increase, I'm going to guess that we can come in with a 5.3% level services municipal budget.
Right.
Because we saved a lot of money by switching our managed IT services. That's one place.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we get.
Yeah.
But and that's where I think you're better to tell me, come back with a level services budget, and I'll come back and tell you what that number is.
Yeah.
I guess I'm more concerned about what is level services. That's what I was getting at. What is level service?
And that's exactly what Wes said. And he said that, 10 minutes ago. That's what's the level service? That's what he said.
I don't mean percentages.
He means services.
Okay.
And then FinCom can crunch the numbers with Mike in terms of what that looks like.
Okay.
All right, then we are basically, all right, so we're all, and we're not going to be making any decisions on whether it's Acton Boxborough Regional Budget or Acton Boxborough Assessment?
No.
Not now. We're going to wait until we have more information.
Yeah, I think Budget Saturday is going to be the key date, actually, because all this should come together by then, right?
I don't think it's going to be as fun as usual.
I just remember you always get the fun part of this. It's a long day.
I know, but I enjoy it, but I'm not going to enjoy this year.
But I'm
Okay.
hoping before Budget Saturday, we'll have some kind of inclination as to where,
Well, we should, right, exactly, and
Yeah.
I think it
Going,
comes
right?
down,
But it's not that-
the repeat, it's what Wes said, and it's what
Yeah.
you want, what you're looking for is, what is level services? What number is level services?
No, that's not what I want. I want to know what services are we providing at level services. I'm actually not talking numbers at all.
I'm not
talking-
either, well, okay.
That's why when you said it's what Wes said, I'm like, no, Wes didn't say that. Wes said maybe level services is less expensive than we think it is. And I am saying, what does level services mean? What is every man, woman, and child living in this town, and the pets and the bovines and everybody else? What service are they getting? What level service are they getting? That's what I'm looking at, is how does this impact the residents?
Right. So they should be receiving the same level of service, whatever it is that they're already getting. We're putting out our summer programs at Flora, we're plowing.
Exactly,
we're
yes,
plowing the roads.
exactly, exactly.
We are staffing X number of police officers on a shift, X numbers of firefighters on a shift. So we're not delivering more service than people are already getting. We're also not cutting back on the amount of service at every level that they're already getting. And people change categories once the kids move out of school or move out of Flora program or whatever. But in general, the town should be receiving the same types and level of services. So this wouldn't be the year that we introduce a whole new department, a whole new type of service, other than in little microcosms within that department that it's already doing.
And that's what's important when we present this budget at town meeting, that we can say there's no increases here in services. This is exactly what we had last year. We're maintaining what we had. There's no increased hours, there's no increased positions. This is truly level services, because I think that's the only way we can justify this idea that we need to sort of have this override to actually give us some leeway for this year and future years, going forward.
All right. I move to approve the select board budget policy guidance as presented by the finance committee and direct the town administrator to produce two budgets, an A budget that indicates level services and a B budget that indicates level funding.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. You know what you're doing?
I do.
All right. Next. Community Preservation Committee application, Town Hall roof. Tell us more, tell us more.
All right, thank you, everybody. Not very typical that I come before you for a single community preservation article, but I think it's safe to say this is probably the single most visited municipal building, save for maybe the transfer station, but not many people go inside the building. You yourselves as the select board are the single greatest users of the building when it comes to a recurring basis, aside from staff themselves. And so with that in mind, I thought no one better to come to ask for a letter of support for the application. We're seeking $144,000 of historic preservation funding to replace the existing asphalt shingle roof, replacement in kind, with a new asphalt shingle roof. It's a beautiful space. It's been used around town for decades now. Banquet hall, meeting space, used to hold town meeting here, and members of this board practically grew up in town hall. It's a space that anyone who's ever interacted with their government has been to before. And it's so important that locally we even have a district named around it, just the town hall area of Boxborough. And so with that in mind, we're finally at a point, whether it's the Community Preservation Committee, but also town hall staff, that we're getting ahead of these things. We're getting to the end of the useful life on the roof here. We're starting to see the early signs of weakening. We just had crews up there stripping the paint, redoing that, and at that time it was noted to us it's time to start considering this roof. The facilities team came to us, they came to Mike, Mike worked with me, and we ultimately said, now's the time, let's put this application in, let's get the project going, and let's button this building up so that it'll be safe to say another 75 years of service without having to reevaluate this project. I'm here before you asking for this letter of support, not only because you're a major user of it, but because you set the standard for operation of your municipal government here. myself, the other town employees, we come here every single day. Whether you work in this building or not, you're in and out of town hall on a recurring basis. And it's a beautiful place to work. I've worked in a few different town halls now, and I love this space. I love coming to work every day, and I want to be able to continue doing that for years to come. I'm not going to bore you with all the data, the statistics, all the features of it, but I'm here to answer any questions and ultimately looking for that letter of support.
Questions for Alec?
Alec, it's $144,000?
Yes, so the 144, you should see the complete application package has been provided to you. The 144 accounts for the original bid that was given to us in February of this past year, or February of the current year, plus a 5% escalation cost, noting the funding cycle of CPC, you're at least a year out, and then with a 10% contingency on top.
And what does it mean as far as roof replacement? Are you pulling the boards off, or, you know, are the rafters off, or how deep are you getting into this roof?
So in this case, you've got only one roof. I say that jokingly because one time I replaced a roof and found a whole second roof underneath it. Yeah. You're going to strip all the asphalt shingles, all the flashing, everything, and then evaluate board by board whether any of the board structures need to be replaced. Beams wise, we think that it's sound, it's sturdy. We can't speak for certain about the actual boards underneath until we get those shingles off. The contingency cost is based in part under an assumption that maybe 20% of those need to be replaced, but ultimately that's not a large component of the overall project cost.
The actual boards, not the rafters.
That's
they
correct.
need to be replaced.
Yeah. Is there any opportunity through our green communities to get any grants?
So the green communities plays a part of this in the long term, in that we're looking to do the weatherization of town hall. That'll help button things up. That'll help prevent moisture from getting in. But ultimately, the roof itself is not within the scope of green communities.
And Alex, this is not putting new gutters, because we just replaced the gutters, right?
That's correct. I wouldn't expect to do new gutters at this time.
So it'd be taking the gutters off and just putting them back on.
That's correct, yep. Under the Secretary of Interior standards, which you have to follow for any historic preservation project, whatever the features are at the time, the intent is for you to remove them in a safe manner and then replace them back on. In this case, we'd be replacing the exact structures. We wouldn't be looking to bring new structures in.
And the $144,000, that's based upon one bid, two bids, three quotes?
It's based upon one bid. It's a bit of a failure in this application. We did seek 3 eligible quotes this past fall. One of those bidders ghosted us, never said anything. The other bidder said simply they didn't have the time and capacity. And then the final bidder came in grossly underbidding. And myself and the building commissioner both agreed it was going to be a change order job where they came in at less than half, and then they were just going to change order until it was all the way up to where we originally expected. The sentiment was imparted back to us by the bidder, who ultimately didn't put in, is that where the work isn't getting done for a year out, there just wasn't enough incentive for them to send a crew out to take a really quality look at it. So we're working off the one that was prepared. We had a good experience with the bidder that was in here. They had done work in town, they had done decent work, and they happened to be in the area in February when Ed first said, I need a quote to be able to kind of size this out. So.
And it's, if I remember right, we already talked about this, it's 50-year shingles, right? Because you had mentioned, you know, not having a roof for 75 years, but isn't it 50-year shingles?
In all likelihood, yes, it's a 50-year
Because
gap
I know
shingle.
we were trying to save
Right.
some money with lower end, you know,
30
25 or
years.
30 year, and we pushed for the 50.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you're going to want to max this project out as best you can. You can get some additional life out of them if it's done right, if it's
Oh,
done
yeah.
well. The weatherization we're going to put into it buttons up the building and make sure that you can get those extra few years, but yes, I exaggerated that number ever so slightly.
So
Well,
the
I wondered,
weatherization-
I'm like, well, you're
50%
a
a
good
little
Yankee.
bit.
Well, no, because I don't believe, you don't replace a roof till it leaks, so I'm like, go Yankee over there, yeah.
Will the weatherization be happening simultaneously, and are we going through that for the green communities?
So our green committee bids actually came in lower than expected this year, so we have engaged Kelly Brown and the Green Communities team to figure out if we can actually get a couple extra projects in. One of those that we're considering is weatherization of Town Hall.
Yeah.
It's going to be tight because we also want to be eligible for the competitive round this coming April, which means that I also have a deadline that I have to get everything in by. So adding new projects is a little tougher. Between Ian and I, we're really working to figure that out, though. Yes, in all likelihood, weatherization will be done either prior to the roof or simultaneously to the roof.
Is weatherization of a historic building a CPA eligible project?
No, I don't believe so. You could probably overlay a couple of things together, but outright weatherization is typically sealing of your door structure, sealing of your windows, as opposed to replacing or restoring an existing structure.
Anything else? Then I move to support the Community Preservation Committee application for the Town Hall roof project and request that Mike write a letter as such and submit it to the board,
I'll second that
to the
motion.
CPC, I mean. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Mike. If you just want to write yes and then sign it, Mike, and hand it to Alec, I'm fine with that.
Thanks, Heather.
Go for it.
I'll see you in a few minutes.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. Let's see, DC public hearing on chapter 70, local contribution study. So, Tori Campbell, the chair of the Action Box for Regional School Committee, sent us an email requesting our support. I am planning on being in Newton that night, just to have a physical presence, because I really do believe sometimes just showing up is a lot, a big part of that. But I also, I will be invited to speak, so I was hoping to get input from all of you. And if you need more information about what this is all about, we'll beg Adam to help us out.
Go ahead, Adam. Give us a high level.
I'm not going to ask who read Tori's email. I'm just not going to ask.
Basically, in last year's budget, the legislature appropriated funds to put together a committee that would evaluate the local contribution portion of Chapter 70. So Chapter 70 is all of our funding model. Local contribution is how do they attribute the ability of the town to pay their share of the budget. There's a lot of weeds in the Chapter 70 formula, but I think what's most interesting here is there's two things. First of all, what I want to start with is that the state says here's the minimum that your budget must be to properly educate your students, and some communities spend under that, which is not above board, and many communities, including ours, spend above that.
Do you want to give them the quick formula that it's income and property value?
I'm getting
sorry.
there.
Okay, sorry. I'm
getting
jumping.
there.
See, I'm like, oh my God, it's 9:30. Let's go.
So what's really interesting here is that we spend above the foundation budget amount for our district. However, our spending per pupil is below the state average, right? So there's some dichotomy there between how much we're spending and how much the state says we have to spend. The state then takes between the two towns and calculates how much each town should contribute to that foundation budget based on this thing called the, community effort yield, which is this comparison of your property value and your community income. And that formula then goes into say you have X amount of responsibility, and once you hit a certain threshold, which is 82.5% of the budget, then you basically start to see fewer and fewer funds from the state. Foxborough sits in the band with many other communities that are at the 82.5%, so we don't get, we're not maximizing our state funding. What's interesting is that community effort yield, like I said, takes into account income and property value. And as we heard earlier this evening, we're now, thank you, $1 million property community.
Yeah, we're an equity-rich community, but our income doesn't match our equity.
Exactly.
That's the
and
fast
so
way to
our
put
ability to pay is not really balanced well with the value of
that. And the fact
property.
is, don't forget the assessor commented that 1,200 of our properties are basically considered low-income properties. So you've got the dichotomy of the single family and then people living in the condos.
So this bunch of bureaucrats are collecting information to then make recommendations to the state. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have been advocating for is the foundation budget doesn't take into account inflation and all of those things. That's not technically what they're charged to look at. So what would be really helpful for our select board and finance committee partners who are coming with us is to talk about, to Kristen's point, the fact that we've got a lot of valuable property, but that's not something that someone can go pay their taxes with. They'd have to
Can't
sell
buy
their
groceries
property.
with it, can't pay your taxes
Exactly.
with it. Yeah.
And so that's kind of the message that we're looking to get out to these folks, is to recognize the fact that, and we are not alone, but there is a great deal of focus on the polar ends of the spectrum. So those rural communities that have had a significant loss of student population but have a lot of fixed costs, the rural districts are struggling immensely. we've got gateway communities that have a lot of needs and a lot of low-income population, and they're struggling, and the Student Opportunity Act helped them. There has not been a lot of conversation about communities like ours that look affluent on paper, but are facing overrides, are facing all sorts of cuts, and don't have the taxpayer base to be able to support that. So I think that's the message that we want to get across to them, is that yes, we recognize rural communities need this, we recognize that gateway communities need this, but there is a growing swath of communities like ours that are facing really difficult conversations like we had this evening.
Yeah. And then it was also interesting, you know, when Jamie, Dan, and Ed were all at the school committee last week, you know, they did get some pressure from some, you know, some school committee members about where is the gambling money? Where is the marijuana money? You know, why isn't that being redirected to schools? And then, you know, Ed, right? No, yeah. No. Simon, not Ed. Ed Cataldo was not there. Simon Cataldo was there. I'm tired. At any rate, but it did make me think, you know, how should funds be redirected, you know, in what's going on with education at the state level. So this is our opportunity to speak to that. And what Simon pointed out is find something that's unique to Acton-Boxborough that is not, and I don't know if you all have thought of anything yet, but you know, what is unique about our situation where the state should be paying attention to us? Or are we just start getting really noisy about it?
Good.
So I'm looking for some input. Now that is the same night as BLF. This meeting, I want to say, was at 4 to 6:30. I'm trying to remember. So I will be suggesting that BLF be at 7:30 because I think it's important that we're all, anybody who can goes.
You can give your testimony and leave too. We saw a lot of people do that in the past.
Okay.
This is during the next school committee meeting?
No, this is December 3rd.
December 3rd at Newton High.
Right. Oh, I didn't know how they were organizing it. Okay, so if you get there at 4:30, you can speak and leave. You don't need to stay and listen to everybody else. Okay. All right, I didn't understand that. Oh, God, you know I'm so early for everything. Shut up over there. No. All right. Okay, well, I am looking for input, and if anybody else cares to join me at Newton North High School, you're welcome to.
Well, the input I have is, I think we're exactly right. I think Adam said it earlier, we're looking for something different, and I think this is something different that we can get some more money from the state, so I support this.
I think the one question I have, understanding our census data now, does having a 30% population over the age of 60 make us different? Like, is that something that we can push back on, is that we have a significant population on fixed incomes, you know?
Well, I don't think we can push back. I think we can make make it known that 30% of our population is over 60.
And maybe it's getting some data on what does Massachusetts look like what's.
Yeah, I think that's a fact, but I don't think that differentiates us much
doesn't? Oh,
from
bummer.
many other communities. No,
Okay.
it really doesn't.
We're all getting older is really what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm not in that group yet. Just want everyone to know that. Okay. All right. Well, anybody else have any input? If you think of something, I am a text or an email away. All right. I am going to make a motion. I move that the select board submit comments regarding the DC public hearing on the Chapter 70 local contribution study.
I'll second that motion.
And just for discussion purposes, that would mean if you wanted to send emails, or like I said, I will be our envoy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okie dokie, done. Let's see, discussion and action, general obligation bond anticipation.
Bob, you get to read.
Oh, what about donations?
Oh, did I skip one?
Yeah.
Sorry. I should put my glasses back on. I'm just a wreck. Maybe I am over 60, I just don't know it. Acceptance of donations to the community services gift account. Are there any new ones?
I didn't see any new ones come in.
Okay. So is this, it might be accidentally left on there from last time, last meeting?
Well, I think that was
I was
the case.
surprised when there was no dollar amount.
Yeah, because last time we had them come in
There
the
is
day
in your
of.
motion sheet, Kristen.
Say it again?
your
There's a
motion.
dollar amount on the page 2 of the motion sheet. Very top.
I think they were questioning if
Oh.
this actually came in or if this was.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
No,
but
I
that
know,
was
yeah.
the number from last week that then got
Yeah.
amended up, so I
Yeah,
don't,
okay.
do we want to just put a pin in this and then
Yeah.
inquire? We can always accept them in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Sure.
Now we're on general obligation for bond anticipation. I thought we just did this, because poor Bob has to read this whole thing.
Mhm.
Is there two? Because I have two. Is there just one?
There's
Well,
just
no,
one.
it's 2 copies that you'll have to sign.
Okay, yeah, but one, okay.
Right,
All
right,
right, so-
but I believe, didn't Bob just, maybe not. Okay, so Bob, you get to read. Well, first of all,
Go ahead.
is there any explanation, anything you want to share with us about this?
I can tell you, this is rebonding, renewing some bands, from pieces of equipment, as well as some new that were all approved at a couple of different town meetings. So this includes 500, the short-term debt for a fire tender of 532,000, 300,000 for roadway maintenance from 2 different years, so 600,000 total, 262,500 to maintain roads. That's an outstanding, and then 160,000 that was voted last spring for refurbishing of a dump truck. Sorry, I'm losing my voice.
I know, I was gonna say, he's going downhill over there. Okay. Any questions? I mean, that was, any questions about this? All right, Bob, go slow.
I, the clerk of the select board of the town of Boxford, Massachusetts, certify that at a meeting on the board held on November 24th, 2025, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, and at which time a quorum was present, the following votes were unanimously passed, all of which appeared upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted to approve the sale of the $1,554,500 of 4% general obligation bond anticipation notes, the notes of the town, dated December 4th, 2025, and payable December 4th, 2026, to Fidelity Capital Markets, a division of the National Financial Services LLC, at par and accrued interest, if any, plus a premium of $15,093. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the notes, the preparation and distribution of the notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated October 29th, 2025, and a final official statement dated November 5th, 2025, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that the town treasurer and the select board be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a significant event disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the notes for the benefit of the holders of the notes from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct the town treasurer to establish post-insurance federal tax compliance procedures.
Issuance, sorry, it's issuance, not insurance.
Post.
We're not getting any insurance, it's issuance.
Post-issuance, sorry, issuance. Federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures in such forms as the town treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax exempt status of the notes and to comply with relevant securities laws. Further voted that any certificates or documents related to the notes, collectively the documents, may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original, in all of which shall constitute one and the same document, delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature part to a document by electronic mail in a PDF file or by any other electronic transmission shall be as effective as delivery of a manual executed counterpart signature page to such document. And electronic signatures on any of the documents shall be deemed original signatures for the purpose of the document in all matters relating thereto, having the same legal effect as the original signatures. Further voted that each member of the select board, the town clerk, and the town treasurer be and are hereby authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes. I further certify that the votes were taken at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by a secret ballot, that a notice stating the place, date, time, and agenda for the meeting, which agenda included the adoption of the above votes, was filed with the town clerk, and a copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal buildings at the office of the town clerk is located. Or, if applicable, in accordance with the alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Attorney General as set forth in 940, chapter, I'm just going to say CMR 29.03, subchapter 2, subchapter B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays prior to the time of the meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting. That no deliberations or decisions in connection with the sale of the notes were taken in executive session, all in accordance with general law, chapters 30A, subchapter 18 through 25, as amended.
Is there a second?
So just a point of order.
Sure.
So we haven't actually voted any of these, so I'm just curious if we're supposed to make motions to approve the sale of the bonds, because what you just read did not say, like, we didn't vote any of these things. And from my recollection, the last time we did bonds, like, I think Bob was the clerk at that time too.
Or Bob.
Well, I would just say also, Kristen just said second, but nowhere in there did he say,
I make a motion.
I move.
Yeah.
So
So
someone,
I think we're
something has
supposed
to
to
be
be
different.
taking these votes, so it'd be like, I move to approve the sale of the, what, like each of these, or like the further voted, and so this is the part that I think you signed to verify it, but we're supposed to actually make these motions,
Individually?
yeah.
And vote them individually.
Okay, well, I wondered that too, because we did this, but didn't we just do this like a month ago for something else, and I had the same question, and, yeah, okay. Well then, we have to go through all of this.
So I'll do, if you want. So I'll
Go
move-
ahead.
I'll move to approve the sale of the $1,554,500 dollars,
4%
4% general obligation anticipation notes, the notes of the town town dated December 4th, 2025, and payable December 4th, 2026 to Fidelity Capital Markets, a division of the National Finance Services LLC, at par and accrued interest, if any, plus a premium of $15,093.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. All right, can we just say as written, since Bob already read all of this into the record?
Can we, or do we have to do individual ones?
Well, only because you just read the whole thing, and now Wes is gonna read the whole thing again. So that's why I don't know if we can just vote this as, I move that we accept the general obligation bond anticipation as written, and not have to read it all over again.
As just previously read.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why we can't do it that way.
Okay, fine. Since-
All
So
right.
should it say, Wes, all of them? Like,
So
our-
this says further voted, and so sometimes they can get technical, so we can just say, I move to approve or accept.
Well, no, further voted just means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
That's all it means. It
So the
doesn't
second
mean that
one-
we have to, so I think I don't know why we can't move this all as one.
So I move to accept all of the further voted items as previously noted by the clerk.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Same
All
thing.
right, done, because I just can't fathom reading all of them all over again. And poor Bob, that would have been wasted effort. Okay, excellent.
Next.
And if somebody has a problem with it, we can do it all over again next time.
And,
Old business, I'm gonna suggest, because poor Mike is losing his voice, that we do select board and town administrator goals at our next meeting, because otherwise he probably won't get to the executive session.
Okay.
All right, everyone okay with tabling that?
Yep.
Mhm.
December select board meeting dates. Kelly, can you remind us what those are?
It's the 8th and the 22nd.
All right, is everybody available?
The 8th and the 22nd.
So we have BLF on December 3rd, and I think this is gonna be an important one, so I really hope people attend.
The 8th, yeah, that's fine.
So we have the 3rd, and then, the
So I
8th.
guess the question is, do you guys want to do the 15th instead of the 22nd, or do you want to keep the 22nd?
I'd rather keep the 22nd.
Okay.
I think that gives everybody more time to get their
Yeah.
work done.
Because
I
we,
agree, it will help me
Yeah.
with the, that's when we're gonna be doing the renewal of the license. So it will give me an extra week, but because it's so close to the holidays, I did wanna just make sure that
Yep.
everyone was okay.
So, yeah, so
Anybody traveling that week?
I am later.
Okay, but you're there on Monday. All right. So Kelly, can you post a potential quorum on the 3rd for BLF, and then the 8th and the 22nd? Okay. Okay. I don't think we need a motion for that, do we?
No.
No, it's just a calendar thing. Just checking my motion book here. Reports and announcements. All right, we'll start this out, like we usually do. Any reports and announcements?
Just a couple quick ones. So the annual tree lighting is.
Oh, here, can we read that for you?
Please,
I was like, I want to save your voice for later.
one of them also.
Okay, so we've got a couple of things going on. We have, first of all, Toys for Toss is happening right now. You can drop off a new unwrapped toy anytime between now and December 6th. We actually extended it a day, so if you're seeing November 5th anywhere, we're trying to line it up with the tree lighting so that people can drop it off then. There are collection bins at the town hall, down in the lobby, at the library, the police station, and the fire station, and there are gifts in every box. I'm very proud of Foxborough. But that will be happening. The Marines will come pick it up after the 6th. So then we move to the tree lighting.
Tree lighting is for the town, which will be Saturday, December 6th at 4 PM at the fire station. There'll be,
There's gonna be caroling, there's gonna be hot chocolate donated by Dunkin' Donuts, there's gonna be face painting, there's going to be, a craft. And, so the fire station will be opening up their bays, so, we'll, plenty of parking at the school, everyone will be there, it'll be fun.
and Santa will be there as well.
And Santa, don't forget Santa.
And then the next one will be the menorah lighting, which is Sunday, December 14th at 5 PM. And then Monday, the 15th through the 22nd. So the first one is Sunday, the 14th at 5 PM. And then the very next day, Monday, the 15th through the 22nd at 6 PM, again at the fire station.
Yep, so first night of Hanukkah at 5, every other night of Hanukkah at 6. Does anybody know if the Public Celebrations and Ceremonies Committee are still looking for families to light the menorah?
I don't know.
Nobody knows? Okay.
And then the only other one is on Sunday, December 14th, Santa will be driving around town on the fire stations as well.
Yeah, so keep your eye out on the Boxborough Fire Department's Facebook page. That's a great place for you to go check out his route so that you have an idea of when he's going to be in your neighborhood or your neck of the woods. And I'm sure the town website will eventually get that. I think Santa's getting off the truck this year.
He is.
Santa will actually be driving around Boxborough, getting off the truck and visiting with everybody.
Yep.
So, yep, excellent. That's enough? That's it, okay. Mine was really about AB forwards, and we already did all of that, so I can just move right down the path here.
No, the only thing real quick is it looks like SNAP got funded, but we are collecting money. The town is collecting money and food supplies for the SNAP people and for anyone who needs extra help during the holiday season.
So let's go back to that, because Kelly actually did confirm that we collected another $1,175, if I remember right.
That's correct.
And so I actually would like to make a motion to accept donations to the Community Services gift account in the amount of $1,175 with much gratitude.
I'll second that.
Minuteman donated the $1,000.
Oh, okay,
So
thank
just
you.
wanted to let you know that they donated.
That's amazing, because I know that the Boxborough Minuteman already seeded that fund with $2,000?
Yep.
And so they've donated an additional $1,000. That's amazing. Thank you very much.
I second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? With gratitude. Okay,
That's
keep
it.
going.
Wes?
I don't have anything.
Brianne? Oh yeah, what's going on with the fire station?
Fire station building committee, we kind of like, condensed our, properties that we are looking at to 3. Currently, we are gonna be only looking at 1300 Mass Ave, 984 Mass Ave, and 72 Store Road. Those are the only 3 that are in the picture currently. And then we do have, some public forums coming up on Jan 28th at 11 o'clock and 7 o'clock here at the Grange. It'll be hybrid, both, in person as well as Zoom.
Okay.
And then we will also probably be present during like Winterfest and other things, depending upon what we have at that point. We'll probably send out flyers and hand out flyers and then be available to meet with
Great.
people.
A lot going on there. Okay, thank you. Sam?
I'm good.
You're good. So I believe, we already approved our minutes. So we are going to adjourn our open session. Let me make sure I read everything correctly. I move to adjourn the open session to enter executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property at 984 Massachusetts Avenue, as discussing this matter in open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, the police chief, and the DPW director. Chair noting discussion in open session may have a detrimental effect on the town's legal position.
I second that.
All right, we will do a roll call vote. We'll start at the end. Sam?
Aye.
So that I'm aye?
And Stemple, aye.
Can we do it right? It's last name I. That's what roll call vote is. You need to read your name into the record. So let's go back. Sam?
Anderson, aye.
Kristen,
Thank you.
do you plan to?
No, we won't,
possibly-
we will not be, moving back into, open session.
Okay.
No, it says that we are.
It says we are.
We're not. We don't have a reason to come back,
Yes,
do
we
we?
do.
What do we have to do
Just
after the
if you're ready
executive
to vote.
session?
It would
The
be
one-
the
Oh, to vote
contracts.
the actual contracts. All right, I forgot we were doing that.
Yeah, just in case you're ready to vote them.
Okay, and the board will reconvene in open session. Okay.
Sam?
There was a motion for that properly?
Okay. You gonna make me read the whole thing again?
You
All right, fine, I will. Okay, fine. You people that can't say your own last name, fine. You're gonna listen to this now. I move to adjourn the open session to enter into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property at 984 Massachusetts Avenue, as discussing this matter in open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, police chief, and DPW director. Chair noting discussion in open session may have a detrimental effect on the town's legal position. Now, my motion doesn't say anything about coming back to open session, so maybe we can add that sentence.
Sorry.
Add it.
And we will be reopening,
Reconvening.
reconvening in open session, but not televised.
But it will not be televised.
Second,
Okay.
Anderson, aye.
I don't believe I've asked for that yet. All those in favor, please say, no, kidding. All right, Anderson, said aye. Next,
Sundaram, aye.
next,
Folks, aye.
Next.
Stemple, aye.
Hilberg, aye. I want you to know my grandchildren call that mean Nana. And did you know that I can talk in 2x speed? You probably did.